All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the stream. Welcome if you are new here. Thank you guys so much for joining me today and for waiting patiently, as always, for the intro to finish up. And we have, yeah, it's looking very blue. I'm going to have to fix that in just a moment. A little too blue. But we got Fred Vance right out of the gate. Before the stream even starts, dropping 5 membership gifts for you guys. Fred.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You know I do appreciate that, man. Thank you so much for the support. Fred wants to be my ADHD today. Yeah, Marathon. We're going to be hearing about Marathon. Let me, hold on. Let me just fix the lighting real quick. Hold on. It's too blue. There we go. Pretty good. Pretty good, I'd say. Yeah, Marathon, apparently, we're going to be hearing about it. We're going to be hearing about it, I think Tuesday. I think that's what that leaker Detective Seeds said. I don't know. We'll see if that turns out to be true or not. But, I mean, we are seemingly going to see it. The 12th, a Saturday, that seems a little peculiar. Fred, you're saying I am your ADHD every stream I can make it to. Well, I do appreciate that, Fred. Boss is my ADHD as well. He's always. Garrett, what's going on, man? Michael, you're saying, MEG, even your face and shirt are blue. Everything's blue. Marathon week and supposedly a shadow drop soon. Fishy says, what did I miss? You know what you missed? Sony dropped Sweet Baby Ink. Supposedly. Supposedly. MBG, did you know they're making a new Terminator game? I do. I did know that, I guess. By the way, how's the audio? Is it coming through okay? Because YouTube's doing that thing where they're notifying me again, but someone posted a picture of a card Bungie gave content creators saying to tune in for more on April 12th. That's so random. A Saturday. I would have assumed it would have been a weekday. Guys are saying the audio is good. All right. Good stuff. Good stuff. Boss, it's too early. We didn't even get to start talking. Hey, stop that. Stop that. Calm yourself, boy. Calm yourself, boy. And Fred Vance comes in and drops another 5-bomb. No wonder why Boss is getting so excited. Fred is off to a hot start, kicking off the member train, dropping 10 memberships in total. Fred, love to see it. Love to see the support, man. Sony dropping Sweet Baby Ink and Marathon around the corner. Good news. Good news indeed. Let me add that to the counter here. Okay. All right, don't get too excited now, boss. Let go. You're going to break it. Wait, so is the SBI news confirmed and real? I need to know before I start acting a fool. Well, it has not been officially confirmed. I don't think something like that would officially be confirmed, but that's what that's what a recent report I came across was claiming. Some insider information. So you got to take it with a grain of salt, but we can, I want to believe it's true. All right, come on, boss. Come on. Yeah, guys, so Fred just dropped 10 membership gifts for you guys to show some incredible support. If you guys want to help support the channel, support Boss's, snack habit, feel free to continue the member train.
Hey guys, it's Boss here again,
how
Meow.
Boss, you know how he is.
Can't wait for the next stream, Meow, so we can hang out and eat snacks together. It's gonna be a good time. Meow.
Did I see a PlayStation promotion with Astrobot? Fishy says, would you guys disown me if I decide to go PC instead of PS6 in a few years? Get out. No, I'm just kidding. No, dude, that's totally fine. I don't think there's any problems there. That's the thing. I think people are under this impression that like PlayStation players are nuts. I mean, maybe some of them are, but as I say that, Garrett's like, yes, please leave. Muhammad says disgrace. No, guys, you're doing the opposite thing. No, it is okay. Embrace PC, man. Embrace PC if that's what's going to make you happy. But I don't know. We'll see what the PS6 ends up being because I don't know, man. Fred says as long as you don't go full PC Neanderthal. Yeah, we as long as you as long as we can be calm and reasonable about it. Boss, bro, I just kicked you out. It's not time yet. It's not time. Fake Man Bear Pig, a member for 16 months, says, what's up, MBG? Keep doing what you do. Love all your content. Go Birds. 40-6. Fake Man Bear Pig, thank you so much for that. Thank you for being a member for 16 months as well, dude. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I really do value the support that you guys show the channel. You wish PlayStation had the dedicated defense force like Nintendo fans? Ain't no way. Ain't no way. What's up, Gaming Survivor? Michael Lynch with the $5 chat says, we only seem nuts because we talk factually, and in 2025, that is considered blasphemy. Oh, trust me, Michael. I know exactly what you're talking about. That's been very frustrating, where you're just talking about things in a factual manner. You know, you're just laying out the facts, and yeah, people for some reason, it's all about the narratives. The narratives seem to be greater than the facts in 2025. If you could get enough people on board with the narrative, it doesn't really matter if, if there's truth to it or if it's based off of facts, right? Whatever narrative fits for those people, whoever they may be, whatever that narrative may be, they'll hold on to it for as long as they can. Have I seen 2001: A Space Odyssey? I've seen parts of it. I never actually sat down and watched the whole thing. I probably should. Nintendo fans are in rage mode. Well, we are going to have a general discussion today. We're going to be having a discussion about PlayStation, Nintendo, Xbox. I also want to talk to you guys about what I've been playing. I feel like it's been a while since I talked about what I've been playing, and people have been asking, and I've been playing a couple of different things. You might be quite surprised at the range of games I've been playing recently. Getting some platinums. Devil Shooter, what's going on, man? Even with the news online, it's more important to be first than correct. Yeah, I mean, that's a big problem, dude. I don't even think I care too much about the people who try to be first, because I get that. I care more about people who, try to twist and distort and manipulate. That has to be the worst. I actually ended up falling off of Cyberpunk. I'm going to have to get back on that at some point. Yeah, I don't know. I stopped playing it for a couple weeks in a row, and then I just never picked it up again and started playing other things. I have this bad habit sometimes. I do this. Half my topics in my videos are pure speculation and rumors. Well, yeah, but the difference here is that if I come out and I talk about rumors or speculation and present it as if it's fact, and create a narrative based around it. Now, there are times where I get excited about things because I want them to be true, and I get burned by it, and anybody who follows me also gets slightly burned by it. And most recently, that happened with the God of War trilogy, where I really did believe that was true because it seemed obvious. It's like, how could this not be a thing? And there were a myriad of rumors and reports around it. But yeah, it's, I've been down that road before of being like, no, dude, this is how it is. It's only this way. This is true. Like, it basically say like, this is what's going to happen. Like, if I were to say right now, right? If I were to say like the PlayStation 6 is going to be $600, lock it in. people like that. People like that confidence. They like that. They just like that air of confidence, But I have no idea if the PS6 is going to be $600. Nobody knows. Even Sony probably doesn't even know right now. Got to be careful. Got to be careful with the way you present these things. Trust me, I've been doing this for a while, and if there's one thing I can tell you, the reason why a lot of people just don't give an F at the end of the day, the reason why a lot of people just don't care is because you're pretty much damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, generally speaking, with the way the internet works in 2025. It's quite unfortunate. All right, boss. Come on. Come on. The monkeys around the monolith remind me of the hardcore fans on X running full defense force for Nintendo, Xbox, PlayStation, the few I have encountered, and PC elitists. Yeah, man. I've barely been using Twitter these days, and I can honestly tell you my life has been better for it. I am going to try to just keep putting short clips up there, maybe, just to help try to funnel people into the channel. But yeah, man, it's bad. Again, I've been seeing this meme circulate, dude, and it's getting to me. Not really getting to me, but I mean, it's just I've seen it so many times. Hold on, I need to see if I can find it. I think you guys may have encountered it as well. It's the meme where it shows the person angry at the Nintendo Switch. I can find it. Hold on. I hope it lets me put it up. Sometimes my streaming software gives me issues. All right, I'll see if I can bring the image up. And of course, it's not going to let me. Damn it. I'll never understand why this happens. I've been saying for the longest time I'm going to find a solution, but I don't even know what to do. I save a picture. I go to put it down as an image, and it just doesn't show up. Anyway, it's people basically trying to make things up and manipulate. They're trying to make it seem like people were okay and happy about the PS5 Pro. Like the general public, right? Like everybody was on board and had no problems, and it's just that's not true. That's literally not true. This is what I mean about people making up narratives. Yes, there were enthusiasts who were excited about it, just like there's always going to be that. There's always going to be enthusiasts who are excited about it. But to sit here and try to make up a false narrative as if everybody was hyped and high-fiving each other and celebrating, the PS5 Pro announcement and the $700 price point and all that stuff. And people were propping up The Last of Us Part 1. That's not true at all. That's not even remotely true. It's literally the opposite. And so, people talk about keeping the same energy. It's like I said, man, I think the energy has been kept pretty well, generally speaking. I think this is where it's we got to be careful not to give too much credit or pay too much attention to the extremist minority where it's if you're somebody who's out here and you're yeah, I'm fine paying for $80 games, that's fine. That's not my place to be no, F you. But it's at the same time, I don't think it's necessarily the best thing to scream that from the rooftops and then make it sound like there's something wrong with everybody else. You know what I mean? It's kind of one of these situations where it's listen, if you're okay with paying $80 for games, and just kind of go about your business. You don't have to draw any attention to it. Just if you want to buy the PS5 Pro, enjoy it. Talk about it if you want, but you don't have to scream it from the rooftops and go crazy over it. But it's a tough thing because these days, I don't know, everything's the next big thing, or it's supposed to be. But things seem to be going to hell in a handbasket anyway in the US when it comes to the tariffs. So it's Who even knows anymore? No, everyone screamed from the rooftops. MBG outside the echo chambers. There was the mass uneasiness of the PS5 Pro with mixed reactions, but people like their echo chambers for some reason. I get it. Yeah, there's comfort in the echo chamber. You know, people just want to be around like-minded people, and they want to feel right. I think that's what it all boils down to. Is I think people want to feel right. They don't want to feel bad. They don't want to feel wrong. And I think embracing challenging opinions that challenge your beliefs or your feelings on things. We're just talking about video games, but it's just it's a broad thing. A lot of people get very uncomfortable and they don't like feeling that discomfort. They don't like dealing with that, and it can be stressful. And I get it, but at the same time, echo chambers don't always have to be a bad thing. It really just kind of depends. Like I've seen the echo chamber of like, and this is probably if I was ever going to try to lean into an echo chamber, this is the one I'd probably lean into. Like, let's just enjoy the things we enjoy and have fun and be positive. And it's like, yeah, I don't think that's necessarily harmful. You just got to be careful not to completely bury your head in the sand. Like if you want to see the bright side of things and you want to focus on the things that bring you happiness, you have the ability to do that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But there is always that risk of like, you're good, you don't want to take it to the extreme where it's like now you're trying to turn things that are just almost objectively a negative into a positive. And that's where I think things get messy in that case. But yeah, there's echo chambers everywhere, man. When Sony's games get to $80, there will be a bunch of people justifying it, saying support the devs, saying you're happy with the Switch 2. Well, it's not about it. That whole statement, like support the devs, that's a tough one because it's like, if you're talking about Sony's games, right? Like we need to support the developers. I mean, yeah, but the developers are owned by Sony, So it's like, really, it's like we got to support Sony. But at the same time, like if the developer, let's just say it's like Naughty Dog or whatever. Maybe not Naughty Dog, but like Sony Bend. Let's just like do a hypothetical scenario. Sony Bend makes Days Gone 2 and it's a PlayStation 6 game and it's going to be $80. People are like, well, we got to support this game. We got to support Sony Bend. We don't want to see anything bad happen. It's like, yeah, I guess. Just making it just if the Switch 2 was 500 and the games remain 70 as a standard. I mean, that would be better. If games just stayed at 70, that would be better. But I'm just saying, like, the whole idea of supporting the developers. Yeah, but the developers don't get to choose the price of their game. At least from, again, the perspective of PlayStation Studios, if Sony were to make their games $80, or like Nintendo developers, they don't get to choose the price of their games. As far as I'm aware, anyway. So when you talk about supporting the developers, I understand where that notion comes from. Like you want the devs to be paid for their work, right? But the devs are going to get paid either way. Like Sony Bend's team, they have salaries, they're getting paid. Bonuses sometimes are attached to like if you hit certain sales milestones or Metacritics or whatever. But I don't know, man. You gotta just be aware of where exactly your money's going. Like if you choose to buy a Days Gone 2 at $80, I mean it's going to Sony, and if that game underperforms, yeah, there's a chance Sony Bend and the developers there could get laid off or the studio could close down. And it's like, that's not necessarily the fault of the consumer for not buying enough copies of Days Gone 2. It could very well be the fault of Sony, where it's like, it's like that meme of Eric Andre where he like turns around and shoots Hannibal. It's like Sony, like again, in this hypothetical, if Days Gone 2 flopped at $80 and nobody bought it, and then the Sony shuts down the studio or lays off a bunch of Bend employees, and they turn around and they shoot them. It's like how could you guys do this? How could PlayStation fans do this? It's like, no, dude, like you did it. You know, you pushed it too far. I don't know. The $80 price discussion, I'll be honest, man. I just think everything. Let me take a step back. It's difficult for me to have a really thorough and deep discussion about the $80 price point, considering right now the US government just imposed tariffs that are so significant that $80 games are probably going to be the least of our concerns at the end of the day. So you see what I'm saying? Like, just from my perspective, it's hard. Like, it's like, whatever, bro. If PS6 games are going to be $80, okay, I guess I'll deal with that when it gets here. But right now, it seems like literally everything is going to be going up exponentially, you know? And so it's I don't know, we're in a really weird situation. Lux, you're saying you think we end up back in the 1990s, variable prices for games, N64 games were actually more expensive than these upcoming games. Some games were $95 to $100. I mean, that's a good point. Yeah, I think that maybe is the most likely outcome at the end of the day, where we just see varying price points rather than just one standard. Right now, $70 seems to be the industry standard for AAA. Nintendo was the first to change that with Mario Kart World. But at the same time, we are seeing quite a few games priced at $40, $50, $60. So, yeah, I do think that maybe there's a chance the overall outcome here is the publishers just have to decide, do you believe this game is worth $80? Do you believe this game is going to be sold, is going to be bought by millions of consumers for $80? Or do you think that there's, the game that you're trying to sell here for that price just isn't going to do it? Because I can tell you right now, there are absolutely many games, most games, the majority of games, people are not going to feel like they're worth $80. But there are definitely those games out there that I can tell you if they were priced at 80, they're going to kill at $80. So I think it's going to be up to the publishers to try to discern, like, the tariffs are reciprocal and won't last forever. This is a long-term strategy that will work. I mean, I would say on paper, yes. On paper, it's like, this is how we can fix things and make things right in the long term. That is true, and there will be suffering in the short term. However, the biggest thing that I am skeptical of when it comes to these tariffs in the U.S. and bringing manufacturing back to the U.S. That's the thing that I'm like, I don't know about this, because that's going to take many, many years to make happen. It's not going to happen overnight, even if it begins in earnest. And we also have to consider the reason why manufacturing left the United States in the first place. Like, this is one of the biggest things that people are arguing right now. It's the fact that it's corporate greed at the end of the day. It's like, why would we pay, an American worker in a factory to manufacture our goods $20 an hour and have to give them all these benefits and everything else, when we can just, we could just pay someone in Vietnam like $2 an hour, $3 an hour, and just leave it at that. I mean, this is one of the biggest problems, where it's like, I don't know how we're going to solve that, because that's one of the biggest reasons why all of these companies just decided to, to just not manufacture things in America. It's too expensive. It's a mess of a situation. I don't know how it's all gonna. Nobody knows how it's gonna shake out. I mean, I want things to work out. Obviously, I don't want things to get worse. Garrett, you're saying if you think the tariffs will work, you're in for a rude awakening. There's a part of me that still believes that this is. I could be wrong, but I have to wonder if Trump is just simply trying to, if he's basically bluffing. We've kind of seen this the past couple of months, where it's like green light, red light, green light, red light. And maybe this is just a green light and there is no red light. But I think some people are hopeful that this is just a strategy to hopefully get countries to be like, okay, we'll remove our tariffs or whatever. But I don't know. I don't know. Nobody really knows. Maybe Trump does. I don't know. It's just unfortunate, man, because I feel like for the longest time we're like, we don't want to mix talking about politics with video games. We don't want to mix those things. It's like, well, literally, there's nothing we can do now. Moonshot with a direct donation says tariffs shouldn't be impacting digital games. That is bogus, just greed. I do agree with that. Yeah. That's where things are going to get really weird, or they're already getting weird with $80 digital games. Like, yeah, tariffs have nothing to do with that. When we talk about tariffs, that has to do with importing, exporting, physical goods, tangible items. Digital games are digital games. So if anything, I don't know, maybe Sony could be the ones to just, I don't know that they'll do this, but Sony could be the ones to come out and be like, yeah, we're going to keep our digital games at $70. And that would be something. Maybe they can't do that for physical games. The price of physical games across the board with these tariffs in the U.S. anyway, apparently are going to go up. It's a negotiation tactic. Tariffs aren't good, but it's a way to force other countries to take theirs off of us. I mean, it's a weird thing, dude, because from what I've been looking into, it seems like I'm trying to remember what the terminology was that they use when it comes to the different tariffs that other countries put on the US. There's a term for it. I forget what the term is they use, but essentially like these countries do this because they need to in order to keep their economies running smoothly, and essentially if they were to remove them, their economies would collapse or whatever, or be in like super high risk. I don't know. I'm not saying it's necessarily our responsibility, but it's a hairy thing, man. It's a hairy thing. It's the big thing right now. I mean, it's all I see people talking about, and I get it, but I just think at the end of the day, man, none of us have control over it, and whatever's going to happen is going to happen. No, not reciprocal tariffs. God, I'll have to look it up. Everything's going up. Sure is. I'm trying to find the term that I came across or the explanation, and I can't find it out. Dude, if you like go on YouTube and type in tariffs, like, oh my God, dude. You think the world is ending. You think the world is ending. It's just a big old hairy thing. We need to focus on us for a change. They're all milking it. It's going to be hard, but hopefully it means the end of globalization. Well, I mean, yeah, that's like the whole idea, right? Like we need the end of globalization. We need to bring everything back to America. We need to, America needs to focus on America first. And I think inherently none of these things are wrong, but I just think what makes it so complex is that like the last 40 years, it was like, I mean, you're talking, Trump's going to try to undo 40 years, basically. Like he's going to try to undo the last 40 years in 4 years. And I'm like, I don't know. I saw somebody left a comment on my video today and they were like, Sony's probably just going to wait till 2029 to release the PlayStation 6. And that actually makes a ton of sense because the reason why they would wait till 2029 is because that's when Trump's term is going to be up. And a lot of people do believe that even if what we're seeing right now with the tariffs and if it continues, even if they, the US, the current administration sticks by this, whoever comes in next after Trump is immediately going to undo it, like immediately. And so that's another risk, right? Like, even if you are a believer in this idea that like, we can do this, right? Like we can actually just bring everything back to America and all that good stuff. But it's going to take time. Well, is it going to take more than 4 years? Probably. Yeah, actually. I think it's safe to say it's going to take a lot more than 4 years. JD Vance. Bro, that man is ruined for me. I don't pay enough attention to politics to really know much about JD Vance, but my god, the memes. Dude, oh my god. I mean, it's crazy. They're some of the funniest memes I've ever seen in my life. You know that man is kept up at night by those memes. Well, I don't want to just keep focus on the political talk. I know that, it's not very exciting and a lot of people have very strong opinions. Look, man, I just think at the end of the day, if there's one thing that I think not enough people do focus on, and I know it's hard, and I know that it's such a kumbaya take and whatever, but like, I think mostly everybody just wants things to improve and not get worse. And I understand when, right now there's a lot of panic and a lot of frustration because it seems like things just immediately got worse. It's like, hey, things are already expensive. It's already tough to keep up. Um, so things are going to get better now, right? It's like, well, actually, the price of everything's going to go up even more. And the person who's already struggling and trying to keep up, the question they're going to ask is like, well, I thought it was supposed to get better, not worse. It's like, well, it's just short term, right? Like we just got this. Basically, what I feel bad for is the people who are already struggling in America anyway. Um, this is going to make it, boss, do you have something to say? This is going to make it so that like if they were already, you know, trying their best to tread water and keep their head above water and they're doing everything they can, this is now basically just going to add more weight, you know, around their feet, I guess you could say, that to potentially drag them down and make it so like you're going under. And I feel bad about that, because that sucks. What are you talking about? MEG will probably get the Switch 2 for free. Pfft. No way. I had like a massive sneeze that was coming on. It was like one of those sneezes that I'm pretty sure like snot's gonna fly everywhere. I'm gonna be like, so I just went over there, so that way I didn't like destroy my setup here and like spit everywhere. It's good though. It was a small sneeze actually. It wasn't anything significant. Crisis averted. Yeah, dude, that sneeze was building for like the past 5 minutes. I haven't played Midnight Murder Club. No, I heard it's pretty fun though. I heard it's pretty fun. Graybeard, you're saying honestly, I don't really give it a crap about any of it. I mean, I'll be honest, man. Like I know that I used, excuse me, I used to be like that. I used to not pay attention to anything, and I don't know. One day that just kind of changed, and I'll be honest, man. Like I don't know that it's really done much for me. Split Fiction. Actually, I'm going to be talking about that. I have been playing Split Fiction. I think, yeah, I don't know what, I think Boss saw Leia. I'm just saying, like, I'm paying attention to what's going on now and I'm keeping in the loop and I'm following it, but it's not helping me at all because I can't do a single thing about it. And it really almost does feel like maybe sometimes ignorance really is bliss. I know that that's not like a popular take and maybe not even a good take. Like, hey, be willfully ignorant. But I mean, maybe it's just like best to try to mitigate how much you really pay attention to it because you have very, very, very minimal control over anything. Gaming Survivor's like, MVG, you can fix the economy, bro. Stop slacking. I'm going to make gaming great again. Are we even ever going to talk about the 99% AI slop in the Sony shop online? It's diabolical. Dude, I know. Sony, it's just embarrassing, man. I don't know what they're doing with that. I don't know why they're not taking it more seriously. Can we talk about Bungie now? What do you want? What do you want to talk about in regards to Bungie Marathon? Boss, don't jump up there. You're gonna knock my coffee over. Fishy, you're saying it's not good. You're obsessed. MBG seems to project onto the world that just because he isn't interested in the Switch 2, that no one else is too. Switch 2 is by far the biggest competition PlayStation has faced in years. Out of touch to not see this. I find that take interesting, okay, because, well, first off, let me make it clear that I think the Switch 2, listen, like I said, I've been doing this long enough to know that there's a lot of internet outrage with the Switch 2 right now. And I think some of it's real. All right. I think some of the boss, people can't take me seriously when you're just standing on me like that. I swear, it's like he's trying to make me look like an evil villain with the chair and the cat on my lap. It's like, you know, come on, man. Why you got to do this to me? All right, let's try this again. There is internet outrage about the Switch 2. I think some of it's real. I think there are absolutely some people that are like, hey, I was interested in the Switch 2. Now I'm not. I was going to buy the Switch 2. Now I'm not. I believe that. But in terms of the bigger picture, that is the entire world, not just the people on the internet, especially not the people that are chronically on the internet, I think the Switch 2 is going to do fine. Even if the price does go up more so in the US, I think it'll still do well. I don't care about the Switch 2 in the sense that, like, yeah, I watched the presentation, I saw everything, I'm good. But in terms of like acknowledging the market and analyzing the market, the Switch 2 is on track, as far as I can tell, to do well. Will it do as well as the Switch 1? That's a tough call. I mean, I don't think anybody knows that. Is this going to be like a Wii U situation or even a GameCube situation? No. No, it's not. The Switch 2 is going to do well. Their games are going to do well. Is there a chance that it won't do as well as the Switch 1 due to pricing? Yeah. Are some people priced out? Yeah. But I think there is still enthusiasm for this console. I think there are still plenty of people that are not at all paying attention to anything that's being said on the internet and just like, oh, cool, Switch 2. Yeah, I'll buy it. New Mario Kart? Yeah, I'll be there. And even there are people now that are tuned in and they're like, yeah, I still do want the Switch 2. And I still will buy these games. But when it comes to the conversation around competition, I find your take interesting, okay? Because you're saying that what the Switch 2 is doing is by far the most competition that Sony's had in years. And I'm not sold on that yet. I can understand where that opinion comes from, or where that stance comes from, where it's like, okay, because I put out a video yesterday where I was talking about this. I said, I don't see the Switch 2 being serious competition to the PlayStation 5 or PlayStation. And the problem with this is when I say things like that, certain Nintendo fans get defensive immediately. We're like, so you're saying like the Switch 2 is going to suck, or like nobody's going to care about it, or you're saying PlayStation's better. And I'm like, no. It's not a matter of PlayStation being better or Nintendo being better. I'm saying it's a matter of, I think these two things are in their own lane. And I don't think there's much overlap. I don't think they're crossing into each other's lanes in the way that, say, PlayStation and Xbox were literally trying to drive in the same lane and trying to kick each other out of it. However, I did see people bringing up points, basically saying that, well, here are the bullet points as to why the Switch 2 is actually going to be a serious competitor to PlayStation. And there are things like, big third-party support, stuff like that, and, major first-party games that are going to drive sales. But I'm just still not convinced, dude. Because my question is this. If somebody goes to buy a Switch 2 And, you know, they're going to obviously spend the money on it. They're going to buy some games for it. But the question is like, what games are going to drive people to the Switch 2? I think we know the answer to that. Nintendo games are going to drive people to the Switch 2. They're exclusives. Now, the second question is, will the people who are buying the Switch 2 for those games also decide, you know what? I'm going to make the Switch 2 my daily driver, my main driver, right? Like where I'm going to play all of my Nintendo exclusives on the Switch 2, but I'm also going to play Cyberpunk. I'm going to play Elden Ring. I'm going to play all these third-party games. I'm not convinced of that at all. Chris Brown with the super chat says handhelds are currently $600 to $800. Switch 2 is NVIDIA powered with DLSS, and $449 is too much. Cry me a river, people. LOL. Not you, MVG. Well, that's what's interesting is I actually don't think $450 is overpriced at all. I like that. That's only $50 more than I expected it to be, which for me, considering it's new hardware, I'm like, well, that's not. I think the problem, Chris, is the reason why people are complaining about it is because they feel as though that the price point for the performance, like 1080p, 30 FPS, people are feeling like that's not. Now, granted, for Nintendo's first party games, it's like 1440p, 60 FPS for, I think, a lot of them. Yeah, I mean, people feel like they're paying $450 for last gen performance, but at the same time, like, you are getting the handheld factor. So for me, my whole thing about the competition, if you look at the Switch 2, it's basically the same price as a PS5, essentially, right? I mean, actually, the PS5 Astrobot bundle is $50 cheaper. And so you have a kind of trade-off here. If you choose to spend $400 on a PS5 Astrobot bundle, you're getting much better performance. Much better performance. But better graphical fidelity and the whole 9 yards. You're getting that, but you can't play it portably. You can't take it on the go. But the Switch 2, I think there's still two major things working against it. Number one, it's the fact that you are going to get much less performance, right? If you buy the Switch 2, any game you choose to buy that's not a Nintendo first party is going to be pretty behind. I mean, you're probably realistically looking at 9 times out of 10, 1080p, 30 frames. That's probably what you're looking at for most games. If we're talking like AAA games. Number two, we still don't have an answer to something that I think is critically important to the Switch 2. And this is something that I actually failed to even talk about. And that is, what about upcoming games? We see games like Cyberpunk. We see games like Elden Ring. We see games like Final Fantasy VII Remake. And the sports games and whatnot. So we know like upcoming sports games. But I'm talking about, big third-party AAA games that are going to be announced this year, 2026, 2027, 2028. How many of these games are going to just be completely skipping the Switch 2 versus how many of them are going to run on the Switch 2? And even the ones that do, what are we really going to get from them, when it comes to performance? You're saying nobody really cares about 4K 60, especially in the handheld? Well, see, that's why I feel like. See, you said in the handheld space, I agree that, like, in the handheld space, I don't know how important 4K 60 is. But in this is my main device that I play, like, the majority of my games on. This is my main driver. I do think 4K 60 is very important. At the very least, 60 is important. I know, like, 60 FPS is important. Okay, you're saying see my last comment. Hold on. Not sure where it is. The Switch 2 is essentially an Xbox as well as a Nintendo exclusive console. and that has more appeal than PlayStation Plus Xbox console. Nintendo exclusives remain undefeated. Easy for someone to choose between a Switch 2 over the PlayStation. Mm, I mean, you're not like what you're saying is not false. Like, I guess what I mean is it could go that way, but I'm not convinced that's the way it's going to go. I don't see it happening, man. I just think that Sony has done you have to think of it like this. Sony has spent the last generation and a half while Nintendo floundered with the Wii U and got no third-party support, and then with the Switch 1 got minimal third-party support. That entire time, Sony has been basically making the PlayStation brand the go-to, like the de facto go-to platform outside of PC, like in terms of in the console space, the go-to platform for third party. And in that sense, you could almost argue that Sony's first party is just kind of the icing on the cake for a lot of people. You know what I mean? So what you're proposing is that the Switch 2 is going to essentially eat into that in a very significant way. Because you're right. Like, Nintendo will have Nintendo games. Obviously, Nintendo will have Xbox games. Nintendo will also have a lot of third party. But that's where I'm saying it's like, well, PlayStation will also have Xbox games. I think that, you know what I think the real question comes down to? It's what I mentioned. I think the real question is going to be, how much third-party support does the Switch 2 really get? I mean, are we just going to be seeing PS4 games, basically? Is it just because, like, if essentially what we are looking at is the Switch 2 is not really going to be getting current gen games, you know, like games that are just made for PS5 and Series X. If 95% of those games are not coming to Switch 2, then I think that would ensure that the Switch 2 is just not going to, like, well, I guess what I'm saying is I don't think Sony would be worried about it at that point. MRPD, you're saying I just saw a guy say the PS5 is a mid-gen level and Switch 2 is more high-end than PS5. Like, I guess I'll just say this. I think there are two different, we have to separate something here. If you're a Nintendo player, or not even a Nintendo player, but if you're analyzing PlayStation, Nintendo, Xbox, the whole situation, if you were to say, bro, the Nintendo Switch sold 150 million plus, it's probably going to surpass the PS2 and be the best-selling console of all time. What do you mean they're not competing with Sony? I guess what I mean is that, like, the Switch, I'm trying to word this correctly. They are technically competing because they're existing in the same space, like we're counting console sales. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, maybe the better word is threat. Maybe compete isn't the right word. Maybe that's where this conversation is getting messy. Sorry, bud. It's not time yet. Like, Sony, I don't think, is ever going to see the Switch or the Switch 2, is what I'm talking about, as a threat to the PlayStation home console. I just don't think it will be a threat. And I don't think there's anything that Nintendo can do to make it a threat. And the reason for that is going to be because they made a hybrid console. That hybrid console will have limitations. It will have limitations that the PS5 doesn't have because it's not a hybrid console, that the Pro certainly doesn't have, and that the PlayStation 6 will not have. And if you just kind of remove Xbox from the equation, because I think Xbox hardware is going to be super irrelevant, really you're just looking at two main players, Sony and Nintendo, PlayStation, Switch 2. PS5, PS5 Pro/PS6 up against Switch 2. And I just feel like I think most people are inclined to either go with both or at the very least acknowledge that the Switch 2 is probably going to miss out on a lot of third-party games. And if you're not playing on PC, I think no matter what, like, dude, let's just acknowledge the elephant in the room right now. And I'll read these super chats in just a moment. I just want to get my point across. GTA 6 is the elephant in the room. GTA 6, I think, represents the biggest example of why the Switch 2 is not actually ever going to be a threat to PlayStation. Because GTA 6 is by far and away the biggest game that's ever going to come out, and it's not releasing on the Switch 2. Unless that changes. Now that would change my perspective a lot. If Rockstar were to announce, oh, by the way, we're launching this thing on Switch 2, it would flip this entire conversation on its head. But to me, GTA 6 represents exactly what I'm talking about, where PlayStation is in a position where we have the home console that can run GTA 6 very well. And because of that, it's going to get GTA 6 on day one. And our, main competitor at this point, not Xbox, Nintendo, is not getting that game. Does it mean people are not going to buy the Switch 2? No. I think it just means that the psychology and the reasoning behind why people are going to choose to buy a Switch 2 versus why they're going to choose to buy a PlayStation 5 is vastly different. I mean, inherently it's the same in that it's for games, but it's the overall experience and what the ecosystem is offering. I think it's still so vastly different that PlayStation's not a threat to Nintendo and Nintendo is not a threat to PlayStation. And I don't think that gap, while I think that gap did shorten a little bit with the Switch 2, that gap closed a little bit, I don't think it's going to be nearly as much. I don't think it's going to be nearly as much. You think the Switch 2 is going to get GTA 6? I mean, it could. Again, if that happens, that changes things, in my opinion. I think that changes things. Because, yeah, I mean, it'll get Call of Duty. You're right. It'll get the sports games. But I want to make it clear. I know you're saying it's a grand assumption, but I don't know that it's as much of a grand assumption as it's just... I'm just basing that assumption off of what I'm seeing in front of me right now. And what I'm seeing in front of me right now is people complaining about the pricing of the Switch 2 products and people maybe expressing concern about performance and, the viability of third-party games. That's what I'm seeing excitement as well. But maybe I'm totally wrong. I'm open to being totally wrong here. PlayStation Pete, you're saying, MBG, you should raise your prices. I'm buying a Switch 2. Well, the PS6 costs $1,000 and the game's $100. I don't think the PlayStation 6 will be anywhere near that much. I think the PlayStation 6 will be... It has the real possibility of coming in at more than $600. There are people who are convinced it's going to be $700, $800. It's possible. I think that'd be nuts. I don't know how Sony would sell that console in mass. A PlayStation 6 coming in at more than $600 makes that a niche product. And I don't know that PlayStation has any intention of turning their console into a niche product. They may have no choice, though. It depends. Are they willing to eat that loss? $100 games? No. I think that realistically, if the price of games are going to go up with the PlayStation 6, which they probably will, $80. I could see them doing $80 games. And then maybe they'll do, something. I mean, you're talking the year 2028, 2029. By that time, you're probably going to see publishers releasing their regular games at $80. And then if you want the digital deluxe version for $90 or $100 and you get 3 days early access, that's probably what we're going to be seeing, unfortunately. Jam, you're saying MBG, I was speaking relatively. The PS5 was mid-level hardware compared to PCs at launch. The Switch is more high-end, relatively speaking, for handheld technology. Correct, for handheld technology. But see, that's what I'm saying, though, is that, like, that, again, I just think there's this it's inherent. That's the thing. It's an inherent difference. It's not something that's auxiliary. It's the inherent difference is that one device is built to be played on the go. The other is meant to be a dedicated unit underneath your entertainment center or on your desk. And I feel like in the same way that I feel like this is similar to when we had the conversation about PC, right? Where it's like console, PC, what's the difference? PC kills console. No, console's better. Whatever. You see people having these arguments like, but at the end of the day, they are inherently different. Like consoles were specifically built to not be PCs. PCs are, from day one, PCs have been open and you could do anything on them. Like it's, and so, yeah, it's like if you're judging the Switch 2 hardware relative to handheld hardware that's out here now, price performance ratio, yeah, the Switch 2, again, I think the Switch 2 is appealing in that sense where it's like, bro, you're going to be you're going to have the ability to play a lot of these games on the go, and they're going to run pretty damn well. They're going to look and run pretty well. And that's, yeah, in terms of like the handheld market, that's great. But you know what I think a better way to frame this question is? Or this conversation, because it's not just a question, it's a deep discussion. I think it's, what is Sony going to do in the handheld space? What are they going to do? Because this is where I feel like Sony is going to have a tough time, maybe. Like Sony, I think, is going to have to be very clear about if they do embrace the handheld space beyond the PlayStation Portal. Like if they make a dedicated handheld unit that runs games natively, they have to make a decision. Are you going after the Switch 2? Or are you just trying to compete with the other high-end, like Steam Deck, the ROG Ally, and all that stuff? Are you trying to give PlayStation players that? Like basically, are you trying to make a portable PS5/PS4? Or are you actually trying to like price this thing? I don't know. I don't know. That's where things get a little bit. It gets complicated because Sony. The one thing I know they won't do is they're not going to create a hybrid console with the PS6, and it seems that they are still going to make a dedicated native PlayStation handheld. So when you consider these things, even then it feels like they're still going to be totally disconnected from the way Nintendo's doing it because I don't know, Nintendo as long as Nintendo is doing a hybrid console where it's a portable but you can also hook it up to your TV, I think as long as they're doing that, they're in their own lane. So if the PS6 was a hybrid console, then I would say, okay, they're no longer in separate lanes. They're going right up against each other. Like they're going for each other's throats now. I feel like as long as Sony makes it clear that if you were planning on spending 90% of your game time or 80% of your game time on the couch, in the living room, in the recliner, in the bedroom, playing on your big screen TV, whatever, this is going to be the best bang for your buck. But yeah, I don't know. Somebody might ask, well, can I get Nintendo games on the PlayStation 5 or the PS6? No. I don't know. Maybe maybe some of you are right about the competition. And Josh Z says, I'm sorry, but Mrs. MBG is more qualified to have this conversation than you are. You don't spend time in both ecosystems. Oh, snap. Well, she's not here at the moment, but I was gonna say I'm gonna bring Mrs. MBG in. She's gonna take over. Well, the one thing I will say is, in a way, I do feel like, yeah, I don't have the firsthand experience in the sense that I'm not a Nintendo player, but I also am well aware. Like, listen, I was completely wrong about the Switch One. Okay, and I am prepared to be completely wrong about the Switch Two. When the Switch One was first announced, I'll be honest, and I wasn't really on YouTube at this time, or I wasn't really, I guess you could say, focused on these conversations in the same way. But I remember having conversations with my friends at the time, and I was like, "This thing is gonna flop." I'm like, "This thing looks like a joke." That was my honest feeling on the Switch. I'm like, "It's different, it's unique, but I think Nintendo's out of their goddamn minds." That was legitimately my honest reaction. I was like, I don't think this is gonna work for them. I think this is another Wii U situation. Um, and I realized very quickly, like, oh, you were dead wrong. Like, dead wrong. And now you see that that it's like 150 million sold. So could I be dead wrong about the Switch 2? Yeah, it's happened before. It can absolutely happen again. Is at the end of the day, it's gonna be like, damn, dude, the Switch 2 is blowing past PlayStation, and PlayStation can't keep up. Okay, yeah, I mean that's I'm ready to see that reality. Getting Call of Duty Mario in the same system will sell millions. But the thing you have to keep in mind is the psychology of a. Now I am a Call of Duty player, so I can tell you the psychology of a Call of Duty player. It's not very deep, but um no Call of Duty player is going to play on the Switch like as their main driver. I don't think that's going to happen. Um I mean, there might be some people. I think I'll be honest, man, I think it's going to be more of a I think the Switch 2 is going to act as a gateway for younger kids to more easily access games like Call of Duty. And I think that has more to do. Well, you know what? Hold on. Then again, let me walk this back for a moment. Then again, one of the biggest things that Nintendo acknowledged with the Switch 2 was the online, the multiplayer factor. Party chat, they have a dedicated chat button. These things could make a difference. A bigger difference than I'm thinking. Where I mean, I don't know if it's like I I don't know. Is like maybe that will convince a lot of people like, yeah, I'm going to make the Switch 2 my main driver now. With the Switch 2 Pro controller, I don't know. I don't think I'm wrong about this, guys, but I could be. You think I'm in a weird bubble? I see, I'm just saying, like, I don't think the Switch 2 is going to do any worse than the Switch 1. I'm just saying, like, I think the Switch is going to have a completely different flavor of appeal than PlayStation will. And if you want to talk about being in a bubble, you know what that bubble is for me is I think it's because I don't want to see Sony do what Nintendo's doing. I don't want them to do that. And that's why maybe there is that perspective of like, I don't want Nintendo to be a direct competitor to Sony because I don't want Sony to feel like they got to do what Nintendo's doing. That's like, I would absolutely prefer that separation to exist where it's like, Nintendo, you do your thing, and Sony, you just stay in your lane and do your thing. Because I know that people like criticize, a lot of Sony's games, or at least I see that online where it's like they just make these movie games or whatever, these cinematic games, or and it's like, well, I think people are being. It's like when people kind of shit on Nintendo games, I'd be like, they just make little kiddie games, and it's like, I think both of these things are completely disingenuous. They both make great games, just very different games, completely different games. And that, I guess what I'm saying is I just want it to stay that way. Like I don't want like it's fine, Sony makes Astrobot, that's cool, and it would be cool if Nintendo makes sometimes Nintendo makes some more mature games occasionally. That's fine. Sometimes they stray away from what they're known for, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I don't want to see this kind of like weird situation pop up where it's like either one feels like I don't want to see Nintendo be like, we got to make The Last of Us. Like, no, you don't. And I don't want to see Sony be like, well, we got to make our own Zelda, or we got to make our own Mario Kart or whatever. Although I would argue some people would like to see Sony make a kart racer, but I digress. The point is, I just think they're both doing different things for their own ecosystem, for their own console, for their own platform, and their own players. Come on, boss. There's not enough space. I'm sorry, dude. We got Gran Turismo and Horizon. I mean, you're technically not wrong. Technically. No one is buying it for the camera, though. The camera thing was interesting. It was really giving me some like flashbacks to the Xbox Connect a little bit. Garrett, you think those are better than Mario Kart and Zelda? Well, see, that's what I mean is that I think there's a separation there. Like I like Sony's games better than Nintendo games. That's not a secret. Like that's literally the reason why I play. Like if that was not the case, I would either be playing on Nintendo exclusively or both. If I like Nintendo games, and that's why I guess the question is like, how many of you do like PlayStation games and Nintendo games? And then the question after that is, okay, how many of you guys are going to keep playing on PlayStation and also buy a Switch too? And I feel like a lot of people, the answer is going to be, oh yeah, I'm going to play on both. Now, maybe that does get a little bit tougher when the prices are going up. And it's like, now maybe you have to choose. Maybe money's a little bit more scarce and you can really only make a decision between one or the other. And that becomes difficult for people, where it's like, well, what games, if you had to choose between PlayStation games and Nintendo games, which one are you choosing? Like for me, I'm choosing PlayStation games. Somebody else they might easily just choose, hey, Nintendo games. The masses prefer and buy more Nintendo games than PlayStation. That's true. And I do think that is something that Sony's going to struggle with. I think they are struggling with it. That's absolutely true. Like, there's no denying that PlayStation's big hitter IPs like The Last of Us, God of War, and, Horizon and stuff like that. Even Spider-Man. Like, these games are not doing Nintendo numbers. Now, not every Nintendo game is doing crazy numbers. Absurd numbers. But, yeah, like, Sony doesn't have an IP that's going to sell a cool 40 million. They don't have an IP that's going to sell a cool 50 or 60 million. Is it possible for Sony to achieve that with the IPs that they have? I don't know. They want that, but I just think that, I don't know, man. I just think that Sony's going to have to accept that, listen, I think it comes down to accessibility. Don't. And I think that's just the reality of it. Think of it like a game like The Last of Us Part 2 is infinitely less accessible. I don't know. Maybe accessibility is not the wrong word. What's the word I'm looking for? There's a specific word and I can't think of it. I don't think accessibility is the right word. I'll just say broadly appealing. The Last of Us Part 2 is infinitely less broadly appealing than something like Mario Kart or even, it's just a 3D Mario game. Yeah, I think that was the term I was looking for, broadly appealing. And I just think that that's the reality of, in one game, it's hyper realistic, grounded in reality, and brutal and dark, and extremely mature. Where, like, yeah, a lot of people just are going to look at that and be like, eh. To whereas in the medium of video games, you see something like a 3D Mario game. I mean, not only is it just Mario, because I mean, you think about how many decades that IP has been grown and the way they cultivated it and everything, but even just the fact that, like, this is something, and I guess accessibility is the word. Maybe that is the right word, because it's just, dude, a 3D Mario game is going to be 1,000 times more accessible than The Last of Us Part 2 is. It just is. I mean, we look at something like Elden Ring, right? Elden Ring, boss, you need to stop. He's being very bad. Guys, let's see if we can get up to that 25 member mark, hopefully, so we can chill boss out, because he's freaking out. I was going to say a new 3D Mario game is infinitely more accessible than The Last of Us Part 2 is. Elden Ring, right? Elden Ring is considered, like, I mean, a monumental success. It's a game that's considered a monumental success, over 25 million units sold across all platforms. Now it's going to come to the Switch too. But even that can't really match the same heights per se as some of Nintendo's first party and Nintendo's first party being on a single console and unit. I think that's revealing, because it's like, bro, Elden Ring is one of the least accessible games to ever find mass success like that. So it gives me hope that, like, okay, like, there is a much bigger audience for games that, frankly, are going to not be that easy to get into, or it's going to ask a lot more of the player. And I'm not saying that games like Mario don't ask a lot of a player. I just mean, like, again, in terms of that broad appeal, I think that Nintendo this is why I consider them in a lane of their own. Like, this whole time, Nintendo, in terms of hardware, has been outselling PlayStation. You know what I mean? And, like, but yet I don't view Nintendo as a threat at all to Sony. Maybe that's where I'm misguided, and maybe I'm going to find out that internally Sony actually sees it as the opposite. Maybe Sony is freaking out right now about the Switch 2. I don't think that's the case, but they could be. Maybe this is why they started leaning in towards Astrobot a lot more, because they're like, yeah, but again, if they thought Nintendo were a threat, why would they put a game like Lego Horizon on Switch? I feel like that's the opposite of what you do. Like, the way we've seen how Sony behaves towards a brand that they perceive as a potential threat. And we saw that with Xbox. We see how they behave towards a company that they believe can actually threaten their what they're trying to do. And I have yet to see that behavior from Sony projected towards Nintendo. Now, maybe that will change, but I don't know, man. I think people are just maybe confusing what I'm trying to say here with when I say that the Nintendo Switch 2 is not a threat to PlayStation or their business or their platform. I think they perceive that as me saying that the Switch 2 is not going to be successful. No, I think essentially at the end of the day, both Sony and Nintendo are going to find immense success. They have been. They're both finding incredible success, and they're both continuing to grow and do well. And I just think that's going to continue. I don't think one is going to eat into the other. And I'll add to that could change. That could change. It absolutely could change. And if it were to change, then yeah, Sony would have to, like, if some of the things I see you guys mention, how, PlayStation's Nintendo, they're going to have Mario. They're going to have all the Nintendo IP. They're going to have Microsoft IP now. They're going to have a lot of third-party support. Maybe there are going to be a bunch of new upcoming third-party games that get announced for the Switch 2 that are also going to come to PS5 and Series X. if all that starts to like seem like it's if that makes it so that the momentum of the Switch 2 is actually even greater than anybody anticipated, then I could see Sony starting to panic a little bit, being like, okay, that's a problem. That's a problem. Because yeah, the truth is, it's like Sony's IP. All right, I'll level the playing field here because I know how this is being perceived by some people. I'll level the playing field. Sony's IP cannot compete with Nintendo's IP. Do you see what I'm saying here? Like that's what I'm saying. Like Sony's IP is not a threat to Nintendo's IP. In the same way that I don't think the Switch 2 is a threat to the PlayStation 5. They're doing different things. Does that make sense? I don't know if that made as much sense as I hoped it would. The Genius, you're saying played S2 at the event and enjoyed it. No video though. $450 is fair, but unit being cheaper in Japan is sketch AF. And don't get me started on game pricing. The Genius is about to go off, bro. That's cool that you get to play it though at the event. You're saying it's worth $450? I'll take it from you. You're one of the few people that went hands on with it. Yeah, the game pricing thing. I don't think that's. I'm curious to see how long this conversation goes on for. Think about what attracts casuals, Call of Duty sports, and party chat. All of that is coming in the new Switch. It could make a huge breakthrough in a new consumer base. Only thing it doesn't have, GTA. That's true. Yeah, I mean, I did mention how they don't have GTA, which I think is a big blow. But yeah, they do have all these other things. I don't know. I feel like we'll find out. We'll find out. Here's the prediction I'll make right now. All right. The prediction I'll make right now is that the Switch 2 could do better than PlayStation. I mean, the Switch 1 is already doing better than PlayStation in terms of units sold and the pacing at which it's selling. I think the Switch 2 could mimic that, and Sony cannot catch it, right? Sony's still going to do very well with the PS5 and hopefully the PS6. And I think ultimately Sony maybe will be okay with that. The only reason I say this is because we do have to consider something in this conversation that I have yet to really bring up. We've talked about it over and over again, but I have yet to bring it up in this specific conversation. And that is Sony is expanding beyond the console, and Nintendo is not at all. Sony is still putting games on PC. Sony is still, doing day and date games with live service. And I think that this maybe reveals that Sony, at the end of the day, no matter how successful Nintendo is, and maybe the big reveal was Lego Horizon going to Switch, Sony may seem more inclined to actually just maybe support the Switch 2 as well with some stuff. I mean, if Marathon could run on the Switch 2, would they put it on there? No. When I say expanding, I meant beyond. I'm saying specifically beyond the console. No, Nintendo, the brand is expanding for sure. I mean, all these brands are expanding. Sony with PlayStation, Microsoft and Xbox, Nintendo, they're all expanding. I'm just talking about in terms of like looking at the hardware console ecosystems. Nintendo isn't budging, and I don't think they're going to. Sony has budged, and they've been in this kind of, middle position, like half stance, I guess you could say, of like, so you're saying Nintendo is becoming PlayStation and PlayStation is becoming Xbox? Maybe. Yeah. It's a possibility. I mean, I don't know how these things are going to shake out. I mean, that's a weird way to word it, but it's like, I'll be honest with you, man. I don't know what to call it. I don't know what to call it because PlayStation is not the same anymore. Literally. PlayStation does not do business the same way that they did business for 4 generations. The 5th generation of PlayStation, they changed how they do business. So is Steam becoming Nintendo? What's happening? I think PlayStation is PlayStation is the Switch 2. Let me explain. PlayStation is the Switch 1. PlayStation is the Switch 1. What do I mean by that? Well, in the same way that Nintendo was like, all right, what should we do next? Should we make another traditional home console or should we just stick with handheld? Let's do both and make it a hybrid. I think that's exactly what Sony's doing from a business perspective, from a platform perspective. I think Sony is basically just saying, we're going to be a hybrid. We're not going to do what Microsoft's doing and just go full-blown third party and say F the console, basically. We're also not going to do what Nintendo's doing and continue to stick to the exact business model we have for the last 4 generations by having true exclusivity and being completely unopen to expanding beyond the console in any way, shape, or form. I think that PlayStation is essentially right now, in terms, talking about the platform business side, is essentially doing what the Switch did. And will it be as successful? I don't know. I do think that there are pros and cons. I think one of the biggest cons is that people don't know what to expect. Customers don't know what to expect, right? We've been seeing a lot of people, pushing Sony, saying you got to go day and date, rip the Band-Aid off, go all in, just do it, stop the tiptoeing. And you also see other people being like, no, Sony, there's still time to turn back. It's not too late, like go back to having true exclusives and you don't need to expand in that way. You don't need to put games on PC. Don't you dare think about putting another game on Switch. Stuff like that. I feel like that's all we've been seeing for this entire generation. And I'm starting to wonder if Sony is not going to become Xbox and Sony's not going to become Nintendo and Nintendo's not going to become PlayStation per se, because the only way Nintendo could become PlayStation is if they started doing some of the things PlayStation's doing. And I don't think they are. I think Nintendo is mostly just doing their own thing. Stream interrupted. Are we good? We having any issues? These companies don't care about what we want. It's good. Okay, it's good now. Hanzo, you're saying at launch, Nintendo 64 games typically cost around $60-$70. So with inflation, that's around $130-$140. That's true, but wages were much higher back then. See, that's the big thing I also see people bringing up, is that it is true that games were more expensive back in the day, adjusted for inflation, and games are technically being sold for a much lower price point, comparatively speaking. I know it doesn't seem like it. I know it sounds crazy. It's like, actually, $80 is pretty cheap. No, it's just realistically, when you factor in inflation, $80 does seem like a lot less compared to what it used to be. But wages are not going up, dude. They've stayed mostly static. They've changed a little bit here and there, but it has not been an even rise. Just, so that's why if games are like 100 today, 120 today, it'd be like, dude, nobody would be buying games. And Neo, thank you so much, buddy, for renewing your membership, or actually upgrading your membership to Play Has No Limits. Neo,
Thank you. Appreciate it.
love to see it, bro. Bringing us up to 11 members on the day. We'll see if we can keep that going. Guys, if you want to help support the channel, consider dropping a member gift or becoming a member like Neo did here. Helps the channel incredibly much. So, words. Yes. Okay. Can't really word right now. Your first job in 1995 paid you $4.25 an hour. Nobody is getting over double what they were for the same job decades ago. Yeah, and that's kind of the tough part about it, is like if that were the case, then the idea of prices being double wouldn't seem so bad. But yeah, it's complex, It's messy. All of it's messy. But But yeah, man, I feel like right now, well, let's take this conversation in another direction. You think I'm underestimating how much developers are salivating to bring their games day one to Switch 2? We'll likely see most games release on Switch 2. Yeah, no, I wouldn't say I'm underestimating that. I just it's hard to determine because the one thing that developers also salivate over is pushing the limits of what they can do with their games. So, I yeah, there's like the prospect of the Switch 2 being a really huge viable platform where they can make a lot of money and a lot of sales and get a lot of exposure. There's also the prospect of, well, I mean, look, they got Cyberpunk 2077 running on that thing. So, I think that gives people a lot of hope. If CD Projekt Red can get Cyberpunk 2077 running on the Switch 2, most games can probably, as you know, if they're willing to take the time to optimize for it, most games can probably run on it. But then again, you know, we're not really sure what. Yeah, that's something I want to bring this up. Yeah, Garrett, I want to. Would people would people be okay if if the PS5 like was stuck at 30 frames? I don't think so, dude. I'm finding that to be a little bit disingenuous from some people where it's like now suddenly 30 FPS doesn't matter. I can tolerate 30 FPS games, certainly. But I'm just saying, like, the whole thing here was like, but see, that's the trade off. That's the trade off. Oh, it's running at 40 FPS? Okay. 40 FPS. Is that confirmed? I mean, that's a pretty significant difference. Yeah, I would say 40 FPS is much better than 30. But I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm just saying. It's interesting to me that like people like when the PS5 and the Xbox Series consoles were coming out, people were obsessed with whether or not they were getting 60. Obsessed. And like the Switch 2, it's just like, like most of the time you're probably going to get 30 for third party games. You know, maybe 40. 40 is good. That would be an interesting prospect if it's like actually the majority of games are going to be 40 FPS. That would be an interesting prospect. Because believe it or not, there is a significant difference between 30 and 40. You can see that difference. It's not anywhere near as big as 30 and 60, but it definitely makes a difference. But I don't know, man. I think Nintendo's they're on their own path, man. I think Sony, if Sony was wise, if Sony is wise, they would just not focus too hard on Nintendo. I think. Now, obviously, I'm just an armchair analyst here. Okay. I don't work for Sony. I know it may seem like I do, but I don't. No, I have no idea what Sony's thoughts are on this. But I think if Sony was wise, they would just look at what Nintendo's doing with the Switch 2 and be like, that's cool. And then just be like, anyway, and just keep doing their own thing. That's what I want Sony to do. Mainly because, and I'll not say ignore it, but just like, okay, yeah, just Nintendo and do your own thing. Because I want to remind people, like, bro, Nintendo came out here and they were just like $80, just flat out $80. We don't care what you think. We don't care what you have to say. $80. Here's our hardware. Here's party chat. You know, here are our games. Here's some third parties that put their games on our console. And I guess what I'm trying to say here is that Nintendo, in my opinion, has made it crystal clear that, dude, they don't give a flying F what anybody else is doing. Now, maybe that has been made clear this entire time with the Switch 1. But even with the Switch 2, they're just maintaining that energy of just like, we're just doing our thing. And I don't think Nintendo really cares if third party is super successful or not on their Switch 2 because they just went the whole time with Switch 1 getting, I would say, generally speaking, minimal third party support, minimal to mid third party support, and they were fine. So I think they probably just view it as anything that we get that's more than that is just the icing on the cake. And I think Sony should just, the only thing Sony should, I think, be focused on right now, if they're going to allow Nintendo to have any influence over them, is how they're going to approach the handheld space in the next couple years. Because there's no denying that Sony's going to have to do more in the handheld space. They are planning on that. They have the PlayStation Portal. The PlayStation Portal is not a competitor to the Switch 1 or the Switch 2, even remotely. It's not supposed to be. It's literally a remote play device. It's an accessory for the PS5. But at some point, Sony is going to make a dedicated handheld again. And I think that's where Sony really needs to think very hard about, this is going to be their offering of like, hey, we can't give you a hybrid, but we can give you the same experience if you're willing to pay more for it, but better, but without Nintendo games. So that's a needle that they're going to have to thread with whatever they do with handheld. And I think that's the only thing that they should allow the Switch to influence, because I think that will make some type of difference. But in terms of the path that Sony forges from this point forward, I think that it's just like, yeah, man, Nintendo's probably going to outsell you again because they're Nintendo. You're The Last of Us, even Uncharted, like, these games are not going to do Nintendo numbers. And Astrobot is nowhere near doing Nintendo numbers. None of these things are bad. That's the point. None of these things are bad. They want to grow these things. They want these things to do better. But I just think that, I think Sony overall is in a good position. I view Sony more as like a kind of, I don't know if jack of all trades, master of none is the best way to, because I wouldn't, I don't know if that's the best way to describe them, but for right now, it seems like, yeah, they have everything kind of on point. They have their hardware selling well. They have their storefront. Their storefront is incredibly lucrative, and they're prospering with it. They have a great sub service that they've been building for years. That's going steady. They have a whole suite of first party studios that I would say, when I said master of none, I would say if there's something that Sony has mastered is, putting out very high quality, graphically impressive games that are really fun to play, and they're appealing to, I would say, a more mature audience, generally speaking. And I just, they have a great accessory line. I'm just listing all these things because it's like, that's like, if I were Sony, like, that's what I would be paying attention to. We're doing PC ports. We're raking in extra money. We have a successful live service with Helldivers. We have a couple of other live services that we're working on. I just think if I were Sony, I would be like, hey, man, that's great what Nintendo's doing. And maybe we need to just keep our eyes peeled for what's going on over there and seeing what's going on and how they're doing. But I don't know that if I were Sony, I would be like, oh, shit, what are we going to do? Because it's like, well, what do you mean? Because it's like, well, what can you do? Well, we don't have something to compete with Mario Kart World. Yeah, you haven't had anything to compete with Mario Kart for ever. Like, you've never had anything to compete with Mario Kart. When has that ever been a problem? Do you see what I'm saying? Where it's like, that's like a true statement. That's been a true statement. Well, we don't have anything to compete with Zelda. Yeah, you've never had anything to compete with Zelda. And I think that me talking about it in this way just kind of highlights what I'm trying to say, where it's like, there isn't real competition. It's just different angles and different approaches. Now, if Sony starts to see data that indicates we're seeing PlayStation players moving from PlayStation to Nintendo to play Call of Duty, then you're going to see Sony freak out. That's when you're going to see the real freak out. But I don't know that that's going to happen. And Xbox in the midst of all this is just like, hey, we'll go wherever, bro. They're going to be on Switch, they're going to be on PlayStation. They're going to let Sony and Nintendo fight it out, I guess. Someone on Twitter just said they played Marathon and said, holy shit. They had one of those Marathon cards. I'm really curious about Marathon, dude. I'm prepared for disappointment, I'll be honest. The competition is broad. That's a good way to put it, Josh. Yeah, broad. Flexible, I would say. It's broad and it's flexible, where it's like sometimes I think Sony's solution comes in the form of not competing, actually saying, what if we just do something opposite of that? And I feel like that's kind of what Sony did lean into, if you think about it. I think that's why for the whole PS4 era, they kind of leaned into being that, really premium cinematic, mature storytelling type company. And I think that, if you think about it, like that's the polar opposite of Nintendo. And it's worked for Sony. Again, has it been as successful? In some cases, maybe. Others, no. But I think these things work. I think these things are working the way they're going, the way they are right now, and the way they're going. And I don't think there needs to be any kind of radical shakeup for either Nintendo or Sony. Lux, you're saying if Sony does a dedicated handheld, the price will be interesting. Will it be able to play 60 FPS, have an OLED screen, long battery life? All adds up. Money. Yeah, that's what I mean. The last report we heard, and I don't know how accurate this was, but the last insider report we heard about a dedicated Sony handheld device or PlayStation handheld is essentially what they're aiming for is a portable PlayStation 5. And now this thing's going to be years away because there's no way they're going to be able to put a portable PS5 out. Well, I don't know. Now you consider maybe that's going to get scrapped. The report did say that Sony doesn't even know if they want to go through with that. Now you consider Sony's going to have to probably figure out the pricing of the PS5 and the PS6 at these tariffs. Stick around. I mean, they might reconsider that dramatically, but I don't know if they could do like a second version of the PlayStation Portal. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, will the PlayStation Portal be compatible with the PS6? Why not just update the Portal? I was kind of thinking of that, but is there anything that would stop the PlayStation Portal right now from being usable on the PlayStation 6? I don't think so. The only thing that could stop that is Sony saying no, because it just streams games, so it could absolutely stream PS6 games. So I don't really know how you would sell a Portal 2 alongside the PlayStation 6 without people getting angry, because it's like, well, it's literally just the Portal 1, but maybe with a better screen, or maybe it'll be a slightly bigger form factor. So I don't know, something. DualSense 2 cut in half? I don't know. Lux, you're saying the battery life would be like 2 hours playing PS5. I mean, dude, that's the thing, man. We're not quite there yet, We do have these high-end handheld devices, these premium handhelds. I think Sony should just do it all. I'll be honest, man. I think that they should just do it all, right? Like, they should offer options. They really should. They should offer something like the PlayStation Portal, cheap, streamable, easy. They should offer something premium. Maybe they should offer something mid-range and then something premium. I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm so damn curious. I have to be honest, man. Like, if there's one thing that's making me a little bit jealous with the whole Switch 2 stuff, is it it makes me just so eager to know like what Sony's going to do. And I'm not even talking about like games because I have a pretty good idea of what's going on with their studios and their games. I'm actually talking about platform wise. We are years away from Sony telling us anything about how they're going to approach the PlayStation 6 in the next generation. And we might actually end up being further away than we were last week because of the tariffs if they, you know, stay true to that and they hold. So I don't know, man. I'm just dying to I don't know, but I'm dying to know like what they're thinking. I would love to be a fly on the wall at Sony and know what Hideaki Nishino's plan is. Like, are they? Because you have to think like, dude, there's so many different directions they could go in. There are so many directions they could go in, and they're gonna have to choose one. They're gonna like. I know Sony seemingly doesn't want to have to make that choice. They feel like they've been in the middle this whole time, but if you don't make a choice leading up to the PS6, you're at risk of the PS6 not having like an actual identity that will carve it out as a proper next gen console. And if that's your intention, how do you plan to mitigate that? PlayStation is that if they increase the price, PC is truly the only way to go. Well, the price of PC is going up too, dude. Not games per se. Well, I mean, if the price of games goes up publisher wise, that's going to affect PC as well. Like if the new universal standard for AAA games ends up being $80 in the next year, PC is not immune to that. When it comes to PC components like GPUs and stuff, that's all going to go up too. That's going to be even worse. That's going to be even worse, man. So I've seen people like panicking, like saying, "Look, if you need to buy something, buy it now. Buy it right now." Assuming again, it's all under the it's you got to be careful when you panic buy because this could go away next week if the Trump administration decides. Actually, never mind. They might. It's a possibility. Don't know how likely it is, but it's a possibility. But if you choose to panic buy, you know, think it over 3 times. Think it over 3 times, but there's no denying that like if there's something you feel like you really are gonna want, like for sure, if you can afford it now might be the time to pull the trigger. Yeah, shit's gonna if shit stays the way it's going, it's gonna get crazy. It's gonna get crazy. So, we do have to seriously consider though. We have to seriously consider this: the pricing of the Switch 2. Okay, the pricing of the Switch 2, $450, might go up due to tariffs in the US. In the US, but right, $450, $500 for the bundle. Nintendo postponed pre-orders because the price might go up. We have to seriously consider the fact that people are talking about the Switch 2's performance and the fact that it's like like last gen performance essentially. Yet this console's still being sold for pretty like it's literally more expensive than a PS4 digital. Or sorry, PS5 digital. No, not PS4, PS5 digital. This really, I'm telling you, man, like, I have no clue what Sony's going to do for the PS6. Because if there's anything that tells me, like, the PS6 is going to be expensive as hell, it has to be the fact that a Switch 2, which is basically a PS4/PS4 Pro, somewhere around that. And yeah, I know it's two consoles. That's true. It being a hybrid does increase it, but I don't know. It just makes me wonder, man. Like, how much is this PS6 going to be? If there's anything that's making like, I don't listen, man. I don't necessarily. I guess I have some skin in the game per se, but I'm not like an investor, and I don't. I'm not part of Sony. It's like, bro, I'd be sweating so bad right now if I was Sony. I'm telling you, the PS5 is going to be the most viable console ever. I wouldn't even be surprised if Sony just forgoes the PlayStation 6 and they're like, it's just a PS5 Pro 2, bro. Yep, it's another PS5. Because God damn it, we don't know what to do. We got to keep growing the PS5. Because as long as you stick to the PS5, you could still sell it at $400 and $500. Even if the price does go up, it won't, it'll still be the cheapest option. That might be the way things go. And I hate to say that just because that's not the way I necessarily would want them to go, but Sony might be in this position due to the tariffs and due to the world economy where they're just like, okay, the PS5 is just going to have to stick around for a long, long time. Move that goalpost. Dark Cloud, bro, you say stuff, but I don't know what you're talking about. Dark Cloud, I'm going to ask you kindly to respond, to elaborate. What goalpost is being moved? Hanzo says stick around. Lux, you're saying PS fans are as fanatic as Nintendo. They'll pay whatever. I mean, don't get me wrong. An $800, $900 PS6 could come out, and there are definitely going to be people that buy it. Absolutely. But I'll tell you right now, an $800 PS6 is going nowhere. It's going to like maybe a couple million people, and that's it. Maybe like 10 million, 20 million. I don't know. It's gonna, like, that would kill Sony's console business. No doubt about it. I just, like, I don't know how anybody could see it differently. Like, who do you know right now, other than yourself, that would buy an $800 PS6? That would be like, who do you know that has a PS5 right now? They'd be like, all right, yeah, I'm ready to move to the PS6 for $800. I'm telling you, like, nobody. Very few people. Yeah, even if you're talking about trading in stuff and getting some of that money back, still, I don't. Wow, you guys really think so? You think it depends? Dark Cloud, you're saying, so in your opinion, MBG is only okay. Sony charges $500. No. See, Dark Cloud, I don't think you're listening close enough to what I'm saying. It's not a matter of what I'm okay with. Like, it's only okay if Sony charges more. I'm not saying that. I'm here to tell you that everything's going up, whether we like it doesn't matter what our opinion on it. Like, what I'm trying to say is there's a difference between Nintendo and Sony are increasing the consoles just because they want more money from you. Like, they're increasing the price of their consoles just because they want more money flat out. There's a difference between that and they have to increase the price of the consoles to adjust for tariffs. Or they have to increase the price somewhere to offset those tariffs. It's not like, yeah, no, that sucks. Like, I'm not saying that's okay. That sucks for everybody. But I'm just saying that, like, that's the reality we're looking at, whether we like it or not, whether we're okay with it or not. Just like the reality right now is that people can be as angry as they want at Nintendo for postponing pre-orders for the Switch 2 in the US due to tariffs. But, bro, like, it's either that or they're at serious risk of, like, selling each Switch at a significant loss potentially, which you could make the argument, well, Nintendo should just eat that cost. But it's like, that's not, if that's what you're proposing, you're not living in reality, because that's just not an option. They're not going to do that. No business is going to do that. Like, they're going to tell you to fuck off before they do that. And maybe that's the best option, is to fuck off. Like, we're seeing a great divide that's happening right now in front of us. And I don't know, man, this is where I'm not trying to be that guy, but this is why people are flocking to Steam, because Steam is not a publicly traded company. They're privately owned. And Steam being privately owned means they can do whatever the fuck they want, no matter what else is going on in the world. Doesn't mean they won't make some of their own decisions. Whoa. We got Boss up here. Bro, there's not enough room. Poorly optimized games. Exactly, bro. Okay, I was saying the same thing. If you can't afford a $1,000 PS6, Sony's going to tell you it's okay. We have a console for you. It's called the PS5. Okay, secretly Don Matrick. Don Matrick getting his revenge. Boss is literally rubbing up against the... Okay. All right. Come on, dude. You're going to start knocking stuff down. Guys, we need to get those memberships up because Boss is freaking out. Come on. He's like, is it snack time or what? It's not snack time yet, Boss. We need 14 more memberships, and then we can give Boss some treats. We'll see if we can get there. PS6 for the mass market will not be ridiculously priced. Well, that's where Sony's going to have to potentially bite the bullet. Hold on. Sony might potentially have to bite the bullet where it's like you have to make the decision. Do you want your home console to still appeal to the mass market or not? But that's where I'm saying the PS5 might have to continue to be that console. I said this in my last stream. I even put it as a clip on Twitter. And I'm going to be curious years from now to see if it turns out to be true. I think the PS5 is going to end up being the PlayStation 6S. I really, really do. I think that that's going to be the only option that Sony has where it's like, we got to sell this PS6. We can't price it any lower or we're going to lose, like, God knows how much money on every one sold. And, you know, we're going to have to just position the PS5 as, like, the cheaper alternative. Because ask yourself this, right? Like, how many developers are going to be skipping the PlayStation 5 in 2028? How many developers are going to be skipping the PlayStation 5 in 2026? Or sorry, 2029? 2030? I mean, how many developers are still going to be putting games out on the PS5 in 2031? The reality is the answer to that question is probably the vast majority. Especially when you factor in, by that point, the Switch 2 will likely be a big success and have sold, who knows, I mean, what, like 60, 70, 75 million consoles? Maybe more than that? And if they're all trying to target the Switch 2 and the PS5 and the PS6, I mean, it's a tough position, dude. It's a tough position that Sony's going to be put in. We're overthinking the hell out of this. The PS6 will be fine. I mean, it's yeah, that's a possibility. I think that's a likely possibility where I'm just under the assumption that the PS6 is going to have a tough time. But the reality is the PS6 could come out and it's just like, it's doing just as well as the PS5, bro. Boss, come on. You got to go. You good? Are you good, dude? You all right? That was something, man. That was something. Okay. I'm just trying to process how big of a fail that was. He put all of his stats into a strength and not dex. MBG is also the dude that thinks adding Steam to a plastic box is somehow going to crash the console market. No, I don't. No, I don't think that's going to crash the console market. I think that's going to kill the Xbox console officially, but no, well, actually, I think Steam being on the next Xbox console is like, I feel like that's Microsoft basically saying we want to kill our own storefront. You know, like I don't know why they would want that to happen, but I don't think they care. Steam being on a next gen console wouldn't crash the console market per se. All right, come on, boss. You're good. Just chill out. Chill out, man. Guys, hold on one sec. But, dude, he's so desperate for treats right now, man. This cat is so desperate for treats. It's crazy. All right, sorry about that. Xbox and Sony should join forces to destroy Nintendo. Xbox is joining forces with Nintendo and Sony to see. I don't know. Not to necessarily have either of them destroy each other. Steam on PS6, no chance. No, Sony would never allow that. Sony would never, ever allow that. Boss is jonesing. Yeah, he is. If you could buy a game in the Steam app and play them on Xbox, how do they make money? See, that's what. All right, fine. We didn't hit 25 members, but I can't take it anymore. I just can't take it anymore. Please continue to donate memberships. Do not let that be the only reason you donate memberships, but I just can't take it anymore. Oh my God. Let me answer or try to respond to what Ray said here. He's saying, if you could buy a game in the Steam app and play it on Xbox, how does Xbox make money? I saw this big argument being made recently, or this conversation, I should say. Not at the moment. And basically, like, what people are saying is, yeah, if Microsoft allows Steam on the next Xbox console, and then people buy that Xbox console, and Microsoft makes like no profit off of it because they don't make profit off of hardware, really. That's not how that works. They usually break even, or actually, they might make a like small profit, really small one. Buy an Xbox, and then you buy the next Call of Duty. Well, that's a bad example because Microsoft would get that money. Let's just say, a new AAA game from Capcom or whatever, right? Like a Resident Evil. You pay $70 on Steam on that Xbox console. Microsoft doesn't get any of that money. And people were kind of bringing this up as an argument as to like, it makes no sense. Like, why would Microsoft do this? And it's interesting because a lot of the pushback to people who bring that up is, who cares? It's good for the consumer. And yeah, you can't really argue with that. Except, I mean, maybe there is the possibility that, like, well, if it's not sustainable for Microsoft, then maybe that is ultimately detrimental to that consumer. I'd say that's maybe thinking too far ahead, but yeah, it's just the way that Microsoft is handling it, man, where it's like if it's true that Steam pops up on the next Xbox, they're just making it clear that like they don't care about making money on their own storefront anymore. And that only hurts Xbox. It doesn't hurt the consumer. That doesn't hurt Steam at all. That's the opposite. That's helping Steam. Could it hurt Sony? Maybe ever so slightly if suddenly that makes people decide to buy that console for Steam instead of a PlayStation, but that's unlikely to happen. It's actually very unlikely to happen. So at the end of the day, it only hurts Microsoft. And if Microsoft is like, we don't care, we have our reasons, then yeah, I think it's like a non-issue ultimately. We talked about this extensively, but the only thing that it forces Sony to do is decide, like, so are you cool with having your games on Steam or not? Because they, why make a new hardware? Well, see, that's where things get interesting. Petrov. Apparently the way Sony's or Microsoft's going to do it is they're going to have OEMs make Xbox consoles. You know, they're going to have like Acer, Asus, Lenovo, all these different companies making their own Xboxes. So basically, what Microsoft is going to do is treat the Xbox brand like they do PCs, essentially. Like that's it. That's exactly, they're converting the Xbox brand into Windows, basically. You think Microsoft's eventually going to own Steam? I mean, that would be an interesting. That would be an interesting. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, the only way that could happen is if Steam was willing to sell to Microsoft, and I don't think that would ever happen. Come on, dude. I don't see that happening. Microsoft could absolutely afford Steam, probably 10 times over. But Steam's not for sale. I don't think they're ever going to be. Saying, MBG, why do you think Microsoft gets no money? Who told you that? If Steam is on Xbox, they have a deal. Well, I mean, I think what you're saying here is that essentially Microsoft would have cut a deal with Steam in order to allow Steam on Xbox, but I don't think that's going to happen because I don't think Valve gives a shit. You know, like I don't think Valve cares if they're on Xbox or not. Like to them, it's just like whatever, bro. We're fine. So, you know, it's like if Microsoft went to Steam and they were like, "Listen, we want you on our next console, but we want to like a 5 or 10% cut." Like, why would Valve agree to that? That's not how it works with Windows PCs. So, I don't think it would. I don't think that would change just because it's supposed to be a console. If anything, Valve has probably even less incentive. So, you know, the reason why I say Microsoft doesn't get any money is because, like I said, think about it. The only money that Microsoft could possibly earn is from the hardware. And that's, I don't know. I don't even know if that's going to be a possibility with how expensive these consoles are going to be. So they'll probably break even with the hardware. Somebody logs in on their new Xbox, they boot up Steam, they buy Resident Evil 9 on Steam on that Xbox. You know, the 70% goes to Capcom and the remaining 30% goes to Steam, and there's nothing left for Microsoft. So Microsoft and Valve are super close to each other. They are, but I think that's, you know, I would be shocked. I think everybody would be shocked if Valve ever sold Steam. Gabe hates PlayStation. Does he? I know he had a problem with the PS3. I know he was not a fan of the PS3. I don't know if he hates PlayStation though. But if it's a PC, it's a PC. I mean, yeah, that's I think that's exactly what Microsoft's doing, dude. I think Microsoft is just going to try to thread that needle of like, can we just convert the Xbox console into basically just being a PC? Can we treat the Xbox console ecosystem the exact same way we treat the Windows PC ecosystem? I think that's what they're going to do, and it's not shocking because it's like, I guess, if anything, like kind of makes sense. Where it's like, well, yeah, you're Microsoft. I mean, you've always been doing that with Windows. It's not what you've always done with Xbox per se, but I guess that's the next logical step. I just wonder what the end game is. I don't know if the end game ultimately is to just essentially like trick everybody, like surprise, actually it's just PC now. We're just PC. That's it. You know, like we just have a box. We have a PC that just has the word Xbox on it, but that's it. I don't know if that's like that sounds like that's the end game, and if that's what it is, it's not the worst end game, I guess. Like it's something, but you're down for that, Devil? Easy way to get in the PC. When Microsoft getting Steam kill off PlayStation, it wouldn't kill off PlayStation, no, but that would be a like if Microsoft did buy Steam, like if Steam sold to Xbox or Microsoft and they leveraged that for their next console, that would be yeah. Now that would be like if the money that flows through Steam is suddenly flowing to Microsoft, yeah, that's a big deal. It wouldn't kill PlayStation, but it could have a it. I don't know. It's kind of a I guess it could no that would turn everything around because at that point if Microsoft bought Steam and then put Steam on the Xbox console, the Steam storefront essentially becomes the Microsoft's. That is Microsoft's own. That's their storefront. They own it, and that changes everything. But again, like, is that going to happen? I no. Genius. Sorry, man. I missed your super chat. You're saying Sony should capitalize on this Nintendo blunder with news like Marathon and Ghost, similar to the Share Games E3 moment. Get some mind share going. I mean, yeah, it would be a good opportunity to do something like that, but I think those days are done. I don't think Sony is trying to. I don't know. I don't imagine. I don't imagine modern day Sony kind of leaning into stuff like that again. But I do think that it could be a good time, like you're saying, for Sony to start talking about some of their own stuff. We are getting a marathon, I think, this upcoming week, which is nice. I hope it's good. If marathon looks bad, dude, that's going to work in the opposite direction. I don't want Sony to have bad news or show an underwhelming game, but I'm not expecting anything major from Sony outside of Marathon. I'm not expecting anything until I would say May, maybe like mid May at the earliest. So I don't know if I don't necessarily know if we're going to see Ghost of Yotei or anything like that this month. I think this month the big thing we might see from Sony is Marathon. We might start to get like some rumors and some buzz around some of the stuff that could go down in May and June, but Marathon would be better than Concord, right? I mean, you'd fucking hope so. You'd hope you would assume so, right? You would assume so. I want to make sure I think I may have missed a direct donation earlier. Let me check. Oh, yeah, Moonshot. I'm sorry, but God damn it. Moonshot, I'm so sorry. I keep missing your direct donations. I apologize, dude. You're saying you forgot to mention the PS Portal. Sony has that strategically positioned because you can get the performance in a handheld as well, but need both. Yeah, well, I did talk. I don't know if this message came before or after I mentioned the place. I think it came before I mentioned the Portal. The PlayStation Portal is in this, I would say, in very interesting position for PlayStation, where it's like it's been much more successful for them than they anticipated, and it's not like taking off or like skyrocketing or anything. It's not like the next big thing, but it's just doing better than they had expected. So they had very low expectations for anything handheld related that they did, especially this remote device. But it has a, I would say, enthusiastic fan base, and it's proven that like people do want this and people do like it. And I think Sony can maybe just kind of carve out a an you know I guess a spot for themselves in the handheld space. I don't know that they'll return to the glory of something like the PSP or whatever, or even if they could find as much success as they did even with the PlayStation Vita. But I think we are at a point where people do want the options. They do want that handheld option. And I think that the Portal is just the beginning for Sony. Planet Slurping, you're saying Marathon should have a single player campaign. I I know it's going to have PvP or PvE elements in it. We did hear that. It is going to have PvE elements, but I don't think it's going to have a single player campaign. And that is disappointing. I mean, this is just going to be a pure live service, like, you know, you're you're dropping in, I guess, to a zone or whatever, and maybe you have like a base of operations, but I don't think there's gonna be like a full blown single player campaign. Was the original Marathon single player? I didn't know that. FPS Helldivers. I don't know. That's not what this is gonna be. Although a Helldiver game being a first person shooter could be interesting. I wonder what like a single player campaign in the Helldivers universe would be like. So I've been playing a couple of games lately. I just got a platinum yesterday. Lux, you're saying PvE is part of most extraction shooters? Yeah, I guess that is true. That is true. It's not like uncommon. But I guess I'm just saying that's like the closest thing you'll get to anything like single player. Yes, Hanzo, I got the platinum trophy for Terminator Resistance yesterday on PS5, and it was a good game, man. Like, you know what surprised me the most about Terminator Resistance is there are two things. Number one, it was much longer than I expected. Like, I thought it was gonna be done in like 5 or 6 hours, but it felt like much longer than that. I don't know why. It felt like there were just way more missions than I was expecting. So that was a pleasant surprise. Not that, a game being longer makes it better, but it's just, I was like, oh, there's they have more story to tell. Okay, there's more going on. There's also like 2 sex scenes in it that are so random. Like I was completely thrown off, and they both come like towards the end of the game. If you played this game, you know what I'm talking about. And I was just like, wait, what's going on here? Oh, this is okay. This is happening. It's really awkward. Yeah, dude, infiltrator mode is pretty sick. So in order to get the platinum in Terminator Resistance, you have to play infiltrator mode. And infiltrator mode actually, so I should preface this by saying in Terminator Resistance, you play as the Resistance. It's after Judgment Day, and it's done really well, I would say. The game has a lot of jank. It's a bit rough. You could tell it was made on a budget. You could tell it was made by a smaller team. It's definitely a double A game. Um, so it's rough, but it's competent enough. Like it does enough things right, and it feels good enough to play. But it captures, I would say, the tone of Terminator really well. Is it like RoboCop? I think it's actually. I didn't play RoboCop, but I think it's a lot like it, if I had to assume, because it's made by the same team. This was the game they made before RoboCop, so they did a really good job in capturing the tone of Terminator, and I think just the kind of atmosphere, and I liked it. I gotta admit, like I really did like it. Terminator Resistance to me is kind of a reminder of like you can you'd be surprised how much you can forgive a lack of smooth gameplay mechanics. And you can like kind of forgive rough gameplay if the tone of the game and the atmosphere of the game is so well done that it just you like being in that world. You like being, in this game, even though sometimes the gameplay can be a little bit frustrating at times. And it's been a long time since I played a game like that, but that's exactly how I felt about it. And yeah, it was really enjoyable. In the infiltrator mode, so the main campaign you play as a resistance member. In the infiltrator mode, I think this was like DLC, but they packaged it in the PS5 version, and you had to play it to get the platinum. You actually play as a Terminator, I think like a T-800, and you actually are going around collecting intel and killing the resistance and survivors, and it's really fun because it kind of gives you that power fantasy of like, man, you're not invincible, like you can die as the Terminator, but you could take a lot of damage. And I'm gonna have to play RoboCop next. Yeah, I'm gonna have to play that next because I'm definitely much more of a Terminator fan than a RoboCop fan. But just the fact that like they captured it so well, again, like just the tone and the atmosphere of the Terminator universe. I think it, from what I've heard, they did an even better job with the RoboCop universe. What's up, Michael? It was a Yeah, it was a pretty easy platinum, and that's one of the things that motivated me to play it. I'll be honest, man. Like I didn't expect to really enjoy this game. I saw that it was an easy platinum, and I'm like, it's been a while since I got a platinum, so I'll just go for it. And I like found myself playing. I'm like, oh shit, this is actually pretty good. Like, why am I enjoying this much? So it was a really good thing. Like I think I platinumed it in less than a week, and there is DLC. So Hanzo, I know you played this game. Did you play the Annihilation Line DLC? Well, I'm talking about Terminator Resistance. Uh, Hello from Northern California, America's 51st state. I'm glad to hear you're enjoying it, Brandon. It really makes me it really makes you feel like RoboCop. Yeah, well, they do have this DLC for Terminator Resistance. It's only like $8. I'm thinking about buying it cuz there are trophies attached to it, but I'm like, I don't know, man. I think I might just want to do everything, play everything that they made cuz I think they did a good job. And that's not the only game I'm playing. Guys, I have two other games I'm playing at the moment, and one of them might surprise you. The other maybe not so much. The other game I'm playing is Split Fiction with Mrs. MBG. And I was hesitant on this game, but I've been hearing such good things about it. And I'm like, I don't know, people are talking about this like it's a game of the year contender. And, my wife told me she wanted to play it multiple times. So I'm like, all right, let's go for it. I bought it and we're about 3 or 4 hours in, and it's really good. Like I could see why people love it so much. And it's the one thing I've heard about Split Fiction that is absolutely turning out to be true is they're like, this is like every game genre in one game. And I'm like, yeah, it really is. It's very much like that. And quite surprising at how good it feels. Like they're basically trying to put all these different genres of game in one game, and you're kind of waiting for like, okay, they're gonna mess this up or they're gonna mess that up or this isn't gonna feel as good. But no, dude, they actually kind of nail everything they're doing. And yeah, me and Mrs. MBG are really enjoying it, and it's not like difficult, but there are definitely certain sections where if you're not paying close attention, you're not really thinking about what you're supposed to do. We got hung up on a couple things, but really enjoying Split Fiction so far. I know, I know. I have to think about that. I'm right now. I'm trying to I'm trying to focus up a bit in a way. Like I'm trying to because I realize I haven't just dived into games. Like just I mean just fully like I'm gonna start just playing games. Just playing, just playing, just playing. I've been spread out all over the place for the past like 4 months or so. I've had a lot going on in life, and so I don't know. Just going into April, I'm like, dude, I want to just start playing games. I mean, just for example, yesterday, like all I did was play Terminator yesterday. But there's a third game I played Terminator yesterday all day. I played Split Fiction all day, and there is a third game. There is a third game. I'll get to that, Namazer. Don't worry, we'll get to it. I'm still holding out hope that they're going to do something. The third game, you're not going to believe it, but I'm playing the Bluey video game with my son. He recently asked us to pick this game up, so we did, and he's been playing it on his own. But yesterday he was asking me if I could play it with him, and so we were playing the Bluey game, man. And it's a bit rough. But it's a kids game, dude. Like it's for very young kids, and he was having a blast. We're going on Bluey adventures. But But yeah, he so you guys will be proud of my son. He wants to go for the platinum. He really the Bluey game is really good, dude. Like for kids, like the way they made it. They made it really easy to play with your kids. The couch co-op aspect. Sure, your kid asked you to play Bluey. I secretly bought it for myself. Got to get those easy plats. No, dude, he pays attention to the trophies. Like when he was playing it on his own, he was freaking out because they made it really easy for you to unlock trophies in that game. And every time a trophy would pop, he would freak out and he'd like run in and be like, "Dad, I got this trophy!" And he sees the platinum trophy. He sees it like because he was looking at the trophy list. He's like, "I want that blue trophy." And I'm like, I was looking over the trophies. I'm like, how difficult is this to get? It's super easy. No, my son is 4 years old, so he's still very young. Um, he's into Astrobot too. He was playing Astrobot when that came out, but he's been getting into Bluey lately. He likes Sonic, he likes Astrobot, he likes Mario. He's after Astro, he really got into Sonic. Now he's into Bluey. He's like going through these different phases, and yeah. So we were sitting in the room playing it together, and he was asking me earlier today. He's like, "We're gonna play more," and I'm like, "Yeah, we'll play more." Yeah, what's up? Oh, hold on, guys. All right, so apparently, I guess my son must have overheard me talking about us playing the Bluey game. He decided to draw something for us, guys. He gave it to me. He wanted you guys to know that he drew the PlayStation symbols all by himself. Damn, bro. He's doing it right. I'm gonna frame it. That's awesome. I guess he just did that. He just did that while we were chatting about it. I'm gonna have to frame it. We're gonna get him his first platinum. I think we're gonna get it today. Thanks, Beast Mode. Yeah, I mean, he's naturally gravitating towards these things. You know, I'm not forcing it on him or anything. He's just naturally gravitating towards it, which is cool. So the next picture he's gonna draw is like an Xbox logo, and I'm gonna have to frame that too. Have I introduced him to the Book of Totokism yet? Not yet, Gaming Survivor. A couple more years. Will I be your dad at Beast Mode? I don't know about that, man. See, seems like a bit too much responsibility, you know? You're older than me. Yeah, I don't know how that could work. Were his first words Xbox sucks? No. Or were they? I'm imagining him calling MBG dad now. But yeah, that was the other game I was playing, and he's stoked for that. He wants to get the platinum for it. Is Bluey related to Blue's Clues? No, I grew up with Blue's Clues. Bluey's just totally separate. I think it's like an Australian show. It's really wholesome. Bluey's really wholesome. We have like Bluey cereal now. Bluey everywhere. He's also my son also, he has I'll have to show it to you sometime. He has this really cool PlayStation hoodie that my wife bought him a while ago. He asked for it. And every time he wears it, I'm like low key jealous. I'm like, why is this PlayStation hoodie that they made for like 4-year-olds so awesome? Like, and they don't have anything nearly as cool for they probably have something like that for adults, but it's pretty sick. We need to match, yeah. Dillo, you're saying there's nothing wrong with Xbox. I don't know why people still argue about things like that. I think Xbox is fine. I do. Like, dude, honestly, I'm looking forward to the end of like the second half of April, because I'm going to be playing Indiana Jones. I'm looking forward to that. Going to be playing Days Gone Remastered and Forza probably on the same day. I'm assuming on the same day. Uh, and that's the thing, dude. Like, yeah, there's 2 Xbox games dropping on PlayStation this month that I'm looking forward to, and then next month Doom, um, and then next month Death Stranding 2. So it's like, oof. I mean, that's why I want to. So I got the platinum for Terminator. I want to get the platinum for Split Fiction. I don't know how difficult the platinum is for Split Fiction. I was looking. It only has like 21 trophies or whatever. So I'm assuming it's not that hard. But I've heard South of Midnight's pretty decent. Yeah, pretty good. I wonder if that'll eventually come to PlayStation. But I'm gonna try to get the platinum with Mrs. MBG for Split Fiction. And then I want to try to see if I can squeeze in RoboCop before Indiana Jones comes out. I think I should have enough time. It depends on how quickly I can platinum Split Fiction. It also depends on if I'm going to play the DLC for Terminator Resistance. But after playing Terminator Resistance, I got to try the RoboCop game. And so my goal before Indiana Jones comes out would be to get the platinum. So basically 3 platinums. Excuse me. Hell, maybe I'll play Bluey twice. I'll get the Bluey platinum too. I'll get 4 platinums before Indiana Jones drops, and then I would like to get the Indiana Jones platinum, and then the Days Gone platinum, and then I don't know if the Forza platinum is going to be hard. I don't even know if the Indiana Jones platinum is hard, but yeah, it'd be great. I'm getting the itch again. In case you can't tell, like I'm really getting the itch where it's like I want to start platinuming games. Nonstop gaming. Yeah, dude. You know what I hate though? I hate when you do gaming marathons. And that's what I did yesterday. And I don't really play games like this that much anymore, but when you just spend like, I mean, almost the whole day, like just hours and hours and hours and hours, like not moving, I feel like shit, dude. Like I just feel awful. I hate that. I love playing games, but man, I really do have to kind of break it up with, I gotta do shit in between. Because if I just sit there for too long, I feel like literal trash. I heard Adam Fall's really good. Old MBG is coming back. Old man MBG. The Forza Hot Wheels expansion is so fun. I highly recommend it. Yeah, I'm curious to see. I mean, it would be nice to get a code from Microsoft. I'm not expecting it, but it would be great. I'm assuming the codes that Microsoft gives out will probably be for the premium version, but if I don't get a code, I will buy the game. I'm just not sure if I'm going to get the premium version or not. I might just end up buying the regular, but I don't know. The expansions do look pretty good. They do look pretty good. Damn, Gaming Survivor, that's brutal. Jesus. MBG equals middle-aged balding gamer. Absolutely. I'm not quite middle-aged yet. I feel middle-aged, but I'm not actually middle-aged yet. Luckily, I got a little bit more time. You think Game Pass has more value than PlayStation Premium? I think it's subjective. I think it just depends. I mean, if you're on Game Pass for the day one games, probably yeah. But they're both good. You're 10 years older than me, Alien Isolationist. Yeah, man, I don't know. I really enjoyed Terminator Resistance. I'm enjoying Split Fiction a lot. I'm even kind of enjoying the Bluey game with my son. So just I'm really curious to see. It's really weird because I feel like I'm like this is like 80s gaming, dude. Terminator, RoboCop, and then later on Indiana Jones. It's like straight up 80s gaming. And I didn't even grow up in the 80s. It's kind of nice. Been playing Minecraft Dungeons with your daughter after watching the movie. How was the movie? Apparently it's like doing amazing at the box office. It's like it's trending ahead of the Mario movie. And I also heard it's god awful. So I don't know. I don't care about Minecraft. I never really played Minecraft, never got into it. But man, you love to see Killer Instinct go full multi-platform. I saw that. Yeah, Rockstar bought the creators of LA Noire, or the developers, I should say. The movie is so bad you love it. It's a popcorn flick, kind of good but goofy. Money, you're saying it was good, to be honest? Interesting. Yeah, well, this is the problem with seeing things through the lens of Twitter. Like, everything's awful on Twitter. I did see, like, some scenes, though, that were just kind of, like, weird. I'm like, okay. I don't know. The whole look of the movie, to me, is off-putting. I'm not going to lie. Like, Jack Black as Steve, it's just, I don't know, man. But it's fine, you know? It's for Minecraft people. It's for the Minecraftians. Is there a name for people who play Minecraft? Our culture loves to hate. Yeah, I think people are too intense. Green screen mania. You know what's crazy is Jack Black is in the Minecraft movie, and he's also in the Mario movie as Bowser. Kind of crazy, man. I mean, he's really raking it in. HP Minecraft. He's in Psychonauts too? I didn't know that. Minecrafters. HP Minecraft. That's cursed. That's cursed, man. He was funny in Tropic Thunder. Dude, Tropic Thunder was one of the funniest movies ever. They don't make him like that anymore. They just don't make him like that. If it wasn't for Game Pass, you think Microsoft definitely would not be making another console next gen? There's probably truth to that. They know that a lot of people who are still on Xbox, it's mainly because of Game Pass. So it makes sense that they don't want to just cut those people off, you know. It would probably hurt Game Pass. School of Rock, that's an older one. Death Stranding 2 hype. Yeah, I did put a video out earlier, and I decided to put that Death Stranding 2 trailer in there again, and I was watching it as I was editing it, and I'm like, damn, I'm hyped all over again. We're close, man. We're close. We're like 2 months and like 3 weeks away, I think. Deadman is confirmed to have an appearance. Yeah, I was kind of wondering if he was going to be in it. Where did you get that confirmation? From like the actor? Devil Shooter, MBG breaking, Sony sending surveys for interest on Switch 2. Bro, Devil Shooter, where are you hearing this from? Because somebody was in my chat 2 days ago, and everybody was saying he was a liar. He said he got a survey from Sony asking about the Switch 2. Everybody said he was lying. So now you're saying this is being reported. Very, very interesting. Sony's trying to get answers, bro. They're trying to get answers. Kojima posted it. Okay. About Deadman. Good. Yeah, because he was a good character in Death Stranding. And I know that the actor who played him was very passionate about the role. Excited for Yote. I'm excited for Yote as well. Saw in a video. You have to find the article. Yeah, we got to figure out. We need like proof of this. Let's see if I can find anything. Yeah, I'm not finding anything. Okay, I am getting the I gotta stop going on Twitter, man. Oh my god, I'm like scrolling for like 2 minutes. Not even 2 minutes. I'm scrolling for literally 30 seconds, and the amount of insane shit I just saw is like What are the advantages of the PlayStation console now over the Switch 2? Is it primarily just FPS and resolution? Um, well, it depends on what angle you're like. Are you asking advantages just from like the perspective of a new buyer, like somebody who's thank you, Devil Shooter. I'll open that article up and read it in a second. You mean from like a new buyer, somebody who isn't invested in PlayStation already or Nintendo already? Because I would say right now, generally speaking, yeah, better performance, 60 FPS, I would say is a huge advantage that the PS5 is going to have seemingly over the Switch 2. Higher resolutions are nice, obviously, but I would say it's I don't know if I would say Sony's games are an advantage. It's more of a distinct difference that for some people is an advantage, for other people is a reason, you know? Like I don't I mean, yeah, for me when I see Sony's games, I'm like to me that feels like an advantage, you know? But that's just me cuz I like Sony's games. There's more to gaming than those two things. Mature games, you think, money? The biggest advantage I would say is that that Sony has a lot of people invested in a digital ecosystem. That's what I would say is the biggest advantage. Uh, like, they have millions, tens of millions of people who have built a library of games, third party games. They are used to having, like, for example, a PS5 player that's been playing since 2020 or 2021 that's been playing FIFA, Madden, or Call of Duty, they are used to having these higher resolutions and these higher frame rates. They're used to having good looking games. Um, and that's just what they've gotten used to because that's what the console offers. They've gotten used to, the controller, the DualSense. I think all these things do play a role in somebody's decision to switch over to something or not, right? So I don't know that I would say they're like inherent advantages as much as they're just advantages that Sony has been kind of cultivating for the last generation and a half, basically. But, it's different. Everybody has a different view of it. Some people see it as an advantage, others are just like, whatever. You don't need Mario to look like a real person. You sure about that? You don't want hyper photorealistic Mario? The Switch 2 is a Series S docked. Wait, what? What do I think of the timing Nintendo decided to release the Switch 2? I didn't really think about that too much. Yeah, June release. I think it's fine. A summer release. I think Nintendo they can do that. I don't think that they have to do a holiday release. It is a little bit different, yeah, but I feel like the Switch 1 launched in like March. So maybe they wish they would have delayed it a little bit by now. I don't know. Well, let's see. Let's read this article. So, Sony sends a survey asking PlayStation gamers about the Switch 2. Just a few days ago, Nintendo finally blew open the lid on the Switch 2, which is set to be released in June of this year. While Sony is the current market leader of this generation of consoles, the Switch 2's release could change that given Nintendo's massive fan base and the brand's irresistible appeal to gamers young and old. It looks like Sony is keen to know what gamers think of the Switch 2, as the company has sent an email survey asking gamers just that. The survey sent to gamers was revealed by reliable leaker Ecstasis, who provided the questions via an image. We've listed them down in case you're curious what Sony is asking about alongside the image. Question number one. As you may already know, Nintendo announced that the Nintendo Switch 2, the successor of the Nintendo Switch, is releasing June 5th, 2025, for $450 $450. How interested are you in purchasing the Nintendo Switch 2? So that's the first question. Question number 2 is, when thinking about the Nintendo Direct, Nintendo Switch 2 announcements, in what way has your opinion changed, if at all, about the following? Uh, Hold on. But they don't list anything. I don't know why. What aspects of the Nintendo Switch 2 console, as announced on April 2nd, are you most interested in? When docked, up to 4K resolution, support for HDR, VR, and the frame rates up to 120 FPS. Um, the Joy-Con 2 controller features magnetic attachment and mouse compatibility, game chat using a TV button, connect face-to-face with USB camera, high definition LCD display, 7.3 inches, 1080p resolution. Question 4. Below is a list of potential reasons to buy the Nintendo Switch 2. Please select the top 1 to 3 motivating factors for you. Number 1, to play upgraded and or new exclusive games. Number 2, to stay engaged with the gaming community. Number 3, for the new Mario Kart themed bundle. Number 4, new features and accessories are exciting. Number 5, to upgrade my hardware in general. Number 6, I always buy the newest consoles. Interesting. So they did. Sony wants to know about that exclusivity. You want to know about that exclusivity. Question 5. What do you think about the Switch 2 pre-order approach? Hold on. So now we have pictures here. Okay, so hold on. I got the pictures up now. I was reading the article before. Now I have the pictures. So the first question is, how interested are you in purchasing the Switch 2? And the responses, the answers that Sony gives you are definitely won't purchase, probably won't purchase, maybe will purchase, probably will purchase. And so the second question, when thinking about the Nintendo Direct 2 announcements or Switch 2 announcements, in what way has your opinion changed, if at all, about the following? Nintendo, much more favorable, somewhat more favorable, no impact on my opinion, somewhat less favorable, much less favorable. PlayStation, same questions. The broader gaming market, same questions. What aspects of the Nintendo Switch 2 consoles? We read that one already. Huh. And they give you the option to just manually type in what you think about the Switch 2 pre-order approach. Very interesting. Very interesting. So it seems that this survey is real. Sony really is trying to gauge. Bro, you're saying I look like I have a shrunken head? Mm. For a moment, I just saw it. That's awesome. Anyway, yeah, Sony, you think Sony's concerned? I think they are a little bit, yeah. They're concerned enough to put out a survey. See, this is how I know. When I tell you guys that Sony really is trying to figure out what they need to do next gen, like how they need to approach it. They're trying to figure it out right now. They're trying to gauge what people like, what they don't, what's exciting them, what's not exciting them. Very interesting. One day I just have to wear a do-rag. Yeah, one day. One day I will. And you won't even know it. It'll just be like any other day. Guys, we're going to be streaming for about 12 more minutes before we wrap it up on this Sunday. We are sitting at 11 members on the day. We have time. We can do it. Doesn't have to end this way. We can get to 25 members. I believe in you. We have more than 12 minutes. More than 12 minutes to get to that 25 member mark. Can we do it? We're at 11. We need 14. And hit that like button. Yeah, if you enjoy the stream, enjoy hanging out here, hit that like button. It really helps. PS6 games, $70 to $80 is an internal struggle you should adjust to and get used to now. I mean, I think $80 for PlayStation games is inevitable. But I don't know. Maybe Sony will be like, no, we're not going to do that. I think the entire industry is going to move to 80. Or, maybe we will see just picking and choosing. Some games will be 80, some will be 70, some will be 60, some will be 50. You kind of see that, just a scale, basically. I think that's a good approach from Sony. They definitely need to earn some player trust back. I think doing the surveys is a good idea. Yeah. It can't hurt. I mean, it's valuable data, It's valuable data. They could do something with it. I didn't get that survey though, which is interesting. I wonder why. Just means you won't be buying as many games day one. You smell fear. Well, this is better than them not caring at all. I still think Sony should just kind of like focus on their own thing, but I would rather see them proactive, being proactive about it and like, putting out these surveys and just trying to figure out how people really feel about it. That because it tells me that they're not in this place of arrogance that people think they are. I think some people think that Sony's so arrogant that they don't care at all, like they're not even remotely paying attention. And it's like, no, I don't think that's the case. I haven't thought that this entire time. And I think this kind of helps prove that they're definitely paying attention. I don't think that they've gotten complacent. You're saying you could still pre-order the Switch 2 in my country and no one's buying it? Eventually, these early access prices won't be for a few days. They'll be for 6 months of early access. You don't have to pay $120 to play. Oh my God, dude. That would be nuts. But it would totally work. It would totally work. Pay $120 now, get 6 months early access. I don't like it. I don't like it. But it would work. Unfortunately, it would work. The question is, what would the price go down to after 6 months of early access? Sounds horrible. Nintendo Switch 2 will sell well, MBG. All those content creators are talking really well on the new Donkey Kong game. I think it's going to sell well, yeah. The question is, will it sell at the same pace as the Switch 1? I think it can. You only buy games when you can afford. Your bills come first. Yeah, well, I mean, you always got to prioritize your bills. So you think after 6 months of paid early access, then they'll release at $80 to $90? Bro, that's a crazy future. That's a crazy future. I don't know. I just can't imagine it. I can imagine it working. Like, I can see people paying that money for early access, but geez, man. Consoles are about to ship with payment plans. Yeah, for real. That's where we're headed. Okay. You're saying the Nintendo influencers really sold a lot of Nintendos after that event? The genius, you're saying Donkey Kong was really good. Having played it, was not able to try handheld mode though. I did notice some stutter, but the image was really ironed out at launch. Or the image will be ironed out at launch. If PlayStation was releasing one of their big AAA IP with 6 months early access for $120, would you buy it? I would, yeah. But I have an excuse. I cover PlayStation on YouTube. But the question is, for people who aren't doing YouTube, would anybody here buy it? $120, 6 months early access? If Sony said I could have Ghost of Yotei right now for $120, 6 months before it's official, like before it's going to come out for everybody else. Yeah, yeah, I'd pay that. But people right now are willing to pay 10 or $20 just for a couple days early access, you know? So I think there are plenty of people who would be willing to pay up to 120 for 6 months early access. Money says, hell no. Rudy says no. Rudy also says hell no. That's true. You're saying people are lining up to pay $100 for a 5-year-old game for Forza. Very true. Very true. Definitely not unknown. No, not yet. Yeah, 6 months is a long time. I mean, it's half a year, man. It's half a year. But no, it's not 20 people. I think a lot of people are buying Forza Horizon, dude. Seems like it's going to do pretty well, from what I can tell. It's crazy that the Nintendo Switch 2, along with their games, will probably outsell supporting the greed. Use 6 months in quotations. You mean a significant length of time? I mean, even if it was just like a month, dude, I think people would pay it. I think people would. Yeah, that's true. That's true, Alien Isolationist. Generally speaking, though, I think it's going to do well enough. I think it'll find an audience for sure and a player base. It's crazy to think where Nintendo is right now. They've come a long way, right, MBG? It's crazy to see Cyberpunk running on the Switch too. They have come a long way. Yeah. Like I said, I'm really curious to see where the conversation around pricing is 3 months from now. 3, 4 months. No, maybe not 3 months. Maybe like 5 months. After the Switch 2 is out for a couple months, I'm curious to see where the conversation around pricing, where that goes, because I feel like right now it's still that kind of initial, like, people are freaking out. I'm seeing like videos pop up on my feed like boycott Nintendo. I'm seeing people making videos saying don't buy the Switch 2 and they're getting like 500,000 views. And I think this is going to be the ultimate test. I think what we're seeing with the Switch 2 is the ultimate test of like internet versus corporation versus the reality of the market. And I think, the amount of backlash that I've been seeing, the amount of people that I've been seeing kind of like raging against Nintendo and freaking out, if the numbers come in, if the data comes in after the Switch 2 launches, even if it does go up in price due to the tariffs, and it's like it's doing even better than Switch 1 or just as good. This is where I'm going to be like, I'm I don't like I literally wouldn't even know what to say to all the people freaking out at that point. Like, guys, you lost. I don't know what else to tell you. Like, you can try boycotting it. You can try um you could try to convince people not to buy it, but if the wider market has just decided that that's where they're going to spend their money, that's where they're going to spend it. And if Nintendo knows it, then really that's just the way it's going to be. It already died down. People will buy it. It does feel like it already died down a little bit. But yeah. All right, guys. Do you think we're being led into a recession? I guess we'll find out. We'll see what happens. If that does happen, I do agree that's consumer spending is going to drop dramatically. But guys, that's going to do it for this stream today. I hope you did enjoy it. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me and chatting with me. I just wanted to have a general discussion about the state of these different consoles and platforms and just talk a little bit about what I've been playing. And yeah, we'll see what this upcoming week holds for news. But thank you all so much for the support. We got 11 members today, which I'm very thankful for. Thank you for dropping those membership gifts, guys, or becoming members. And thank you to anybody who dropped any super chats or direct donations. I can only do this because you guys make it possible. So again, please enjoy the rest of your day. We should be back here tomorrow with some more content. So yeah, that's going to do it. So please enjoy the rest of your day. I will catch you in the next one. Until then, take care, everyone.